It wasn't so that the husband could have sex for fun with his mistresses. It was strictly because he needed a child, or he wouldn't be seen as a man in his community. So if a mistress got pregnant and had a kid, the baby was then taken from her, given to the first wife, and they would pretend that it was their baby, not the mistress's baby, proving to the community that they could procreate. It sounds exactly like Handmaid's Tale. Have you guys watched that show? I don't know why you guys like it so much. It's pretty fucked up. You kept telling me to watch it, and I did. And then I couldn't sleep, and I was getting all depressed. We spiraled, and I was like, why am I watching this? Are you guys okay? Anyways, it was like that. Just like that. Now, it was rare, but there were wives who maybe decided to fuck around. And if the wife was caught cheating, woo, she was in trouble. Because in Hammurabi's code, it said that the cheating wife and her lover, they would have to be bound together with rope, then thrown into the river nearby, where they were left to drown. The end. Now, the man, on the other hand, was allowed to have lots of mistresses. Blah, 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 blah. Same shit, different era. Fun fact, though, lots of rules in Hammurabi's code said that if you disobeyed, you would get thrown in the river. I guess it was just like a catch-all. Throw him in the river, Barbara. Because it happens a lot throughout history. The river, people get thrown in there. What was that about? We'll have to do a dark history of being thrown in the river. In Babylonia, around this time, divorce, not really a thing, but it did happen sometimes. You see, if you were lower class and you couldn't afford to get a mistress, there was always the option for divorce. But that would also bring a lot of shame to the family. So just shame, 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 shame. And that's like a big deal. Shame, you know? Shame. Okay, great. Now this may seem a little cray, right? Marrying young, wife auctions, and mistresses, throwing women into the river. But you have to remember, like, this was their normal. Like, nobody really questioned it. I mean, honestly, a round of applause for the Babylonians for being first. They invented divorce. They invented, like, marriage contract. They invented, like, the idea of having mistresses. Did they? No. But they invented divorce and, like, marriage in general. So that's pretty cool. So next time you're getting a divorce or you're at the altar saying your I do's, make sure to give a big thank you to the Babylonians for inventing that thing you're doing. Thanks, Babylonians. Hiring is challenging. Especially right now when you have so much on your plate. Luckily, there's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/darkhistory. ZipRecruiter does the work for you. I mean, how can you not love that? ZipRecruiter uses its powerful technology to find and match the right candidates that make your job. And realistically capture her. I don't know. Then they would have to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was not that long. So after a couple of days, they were going on and sometimes more. Now this was the wife in charge. She was considered the head of the family and out, which apparently was a kind of risky But the Spartan husbands, they could do whatever the hell they wanted, you know? Which leads to the term soulmates. Again, love this, comes from the Greeks. Well, their thought process here was you married for the purpose of procreation, but the one that you actually upgrade to the ShipStation today. I know so many of my listeners own their own businesses, which can require wearing so many different hats, from marketing to customer service to making the product. I mean, you do it all. And now is the time of year when online orders start to ramp up. So it's important getting ready for a busy shipping season ahead of time to make it a lot less stressful and hopefully a lot less overwhelming, right? I know that feeling of being unprepared. I know that feeling of being unprepared for a deadline, been there, done that, and it can feel like you can never get to the finish line, right? It's so stressful you can't even enjoy your day. You don't need to be doing that, because whether you're starting small or scaling up, ShipStation makes ship happen. ShipStation integrates with every platform, including Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, the list goes on. So they make it easy to manage all of your shipping from one simple dashboard. You can also save time with consolidated order management and automated shipping updates for your customers. And easily compare carriers, rates, and delivery times to get the most out of every send. Join over 130 companies who have grown their e-commerce businesses with ShipStation. 98% of companies that use ShipStation for 1 year become customers for life. Like Daily Look, Booking Puck Home, and Passion Planner, just to name a few. Ship more and grow more with ShipStation. Go to ShipStation.com today and sign up with promo code DARKHISTORY for a free 60-day trial. Start today and get set up before the biggest shipping season of the year. That's 2 months free. Visit ShipStation.com, click the microphone at the top, and type in code DARKHISTORY. Now let's get back to today's story. And we're back.
You make it through security so fast. The agents applaud. When it comes to travel, you're a winner. And that's why you work with National.
Okay, so let's say you're a 12-year-old Roman woman. Similar to the Greeks, the Romans viewed marriage mainly as a business transaction because back then in 509 BCE, I'm sure you can imagine 509 BCE, use your imagination. Anyways, back then it was all about status and procreation took a back seat. Babies were definitely still important, but people were mainly focused on money. Because to them, money meant power. Money was everything. And in ancient Rome, just like previous stories, once a girl hit puberty, she was ready to be a bride. The father would arrange who she was going to marry, and usually he would try and find a suitor who had a bunch of land to his name or came from a wealthy family. So the father would pick who he felt was the best for his daughter, but most of all was going to make the family look super good and super rich. Now, why would the father be making these decisions? Well, because he's considered the man of the household who made all of the decisions, even right down to their children. Plus, on top of that, the Romans literally believed that women had weak judgment. We do. We're so helpless, stupid. Usually the father would be worried that she'd marry some loser, because he was nice to her. He didn't want that. He wanted land. He wanted money. Tough love. Most Roman men would get married around the age of 26 because just like the Greeks, they believed that men mentally were just not ready before then. Once a fine man was found, daddy would set the wedding date. And sometimes the woman, or I should say the 12-year-old, would have to travel pretty far to get to her husband's house. And she would have to travel with her dowry. So dowry is like, essentially she would be carrying a box of all of her valuables that she was going to give and bring to her husband. It's like showing up, like here's my investment into this whole marriage thing. I've got rings, I've got paper, I've got collage, stones and stuff. Here's what I got, marry me. So the bride, she would have to travel with her box of valuables and with a group of women who we would call today bridesmaids. Oh yes. Now this part was like really fascinating to me. The Roman women had bridesmaids for their big day. Now they were important because one, you needed at least 10 people to witness your marriage in order for it to count. And then two, your bridesmaids, they were essentially your bodyguards. Yeah. You're probably thinking, what? Yeah, bridesmaids were their bodyguards. Buff up, ladies, because we need bodyguards. Now back then, it was actually kind of normal for men to see a beautiful woman just walking around minding her own business, and then they're like, ooh, she's hot. And they go up to her, snatch her, literally kidnap her, okay? Carry her out, keep her somewhere hidden out of sight until her family stopped looking for her, or until she got pregnant. Obviously, not ideal. So once the bride-to-be had their bridesmaids picked out, their job was to protect the bride, have her back to prevent any kidnappings from happening, So leading up to the wedding day, the bridesmaids and the bride, they were all dressed the same, exactly the same. And they did this to make sure that nobody would kidnap and take the real bride-to-be or her valuables. Like if they're all dressed the same, the kidnappers would be like, what? I don't know which one to take. They all look the same. I'm bamboozled. So they would just give up. Because again, men aren't smart until about 25, 30, according to them. Are you imagining it? Right. It's your wedding day. Congratulations. Now, to get to the altar, your dad has to walk you down the aisle and pass you off. It's a transaction of property, after all. Sound familiar? Dad walking the bride down the aisle? Mm-hmm. A couple of other fun things we still do today that were invented by the Romans. Kiss. Back then, Romans often couldn't read or write, so how they would seal the deal was with a kiss. Great. They're like, do you know what that says? No. Do you know what that says? No. Let's just make out. And so, outside the church when people throw confetti or whatever at the bride and groom, Romans did that. They would throw rice or sometimes like even nuts at the new bride and groom as they made their way to the after party. Could you imagine getting some like big old nuts thrown at your face? My God. Just nuts flying at your face out of nowhere. So after all that, the bride and groom and their families would have a big old dinner together. After that, dessert. Oh yeah. So the Romans would celebrate the marriage with cake. Not right? Can't imagine love. But it's not the cake we have today. It was more like basic bread, cardboard kind of cake. So the newlyweds would go over to the cake. The groom would lift it up, the whole cake, and then smash it over his new
2
wife's
years.
head.
I guess it's hit the right setting for
Not like in
once.
a nice way. Like, it was pretty hardcore. And this symbolized his dominance over her. Yeah. She's like, alright, probably could have just done that another way. Well, hopefully the cake would break and crumble all over the floor. And that's when the whole wedding party would come up and pick the crumbs off the floor and they'd eat together. And it was seen as like a celebration of him trying to knock out his wife with a big old crusty ass cake. Yeah. After that, they were married. And it was time for their honeymoon. Now, this is where we think the name honeymoon comes from. During their honeymoon, they would drink honey wine, have sex, and try to get pregnant. Hopefully get pregnant. You better get pregnant. Which, again, kind of like what you do today. You get drunk, and some of you have sex on your wedding night. I say some because I don't know if you're tired. But when all this bliss of the wedding night fades, the realities of the arrangement starts to sleep. And that's when the man develops an itch and just begins to scratch. In the Roman era, there were 2 types of women: sex worker, non-sex worker. That's it. One or the other. Which one are you? So how can you tell if a sex worker wasn't? Well, by the toga they were wearing. You know those sheet things that boys wear at frat parties? Now the sex workers wore sheer tunics that were short, sometimes very colorful. They would wear a lot of jewelry and a ton of makeup, and were a little bit more loose and relaxed with their hairstyles. They looked like they had more fun, honestly. So these men would see these girls, the sex worker, as the ones that they could fuck around with. Wives, they had to have sex with the husband, because that was your job. And then the sex workers were like the ones that they could have fun with. So again, kind of like having your mistress on the side, it's the same thing. The Romans, they also invented couples counseling, which is super interesting. In summary, it was always the woman's fault. Okay. And the nice thing here, a little shift, was if you were a woman and your husband was abusive, you actually had an option to get out. But if you were, this is the first time that choice. Now, unfortunately, the first found on have gone on to inspire a bunch of wedding stuff that we carry on today. I mean, bridesmaids, father walking the daughter down the aisle, kissing at the altar because we can't read, honeymoons. And if a woman was ever feeling unsafe, she had the option to get a divorce. So yeah, thanks Romans. You did something. Oh, and couples counseling. I didn't mention couples counseling. That's huge. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the amount of choices there are out there? Whether you're shopping for cereal or toilet paper, there's so many options. It's hard to know what's best for you. When it comes to finding skincare products that actually work, don't even get me started because that's a whole nother story. Okay, it's so overwhelming. I've been having these stress breakouts happening, so naturally I go online and try to find a product that can help. There's just so many products, so many brands. They all make these big promises that they're going to cure your acne. Everybody has different recommendations. I mean, how are you supposed to know what actually works? I don't know. Finding skincare products that actually work for you is complicated, and that's why I'm always excited to partner with Apostrophe, the sponsor of this episode. If you don't know, Apostrophe is an online platform that connects you with an expert dermatology team to get customized acne treatment for your unique skin. Through Apostrophe, you can get access to oral and topical medications that use clinically proven ingredients to help clear acne. All you have to do is simply fill out an online consultation about your skin goals and medical history, then snap a few selfies, and a board-certified dermatologist will create your first customized treatment plan. Apostrophe offers access to treatment for all types of acne, from hormonal acne to facial acne to back knee, chest knee, and butt knee. They treat gynecologists that can tailor a topical scheme. Your first code, history, that's Europe between the 1400s and 1600s. Now this would be considered the late Middle Ages and the Renaissance. This is the time when religion starts to dictate people's marriages and sex life. Unlike the previous eras, during this time, sex was seen as something very shameful. Not to be celebrated or even like talked about or anything, okay? No. They even had rules about when you could have sex with your partner. For example, you were not allowed to have sex on Sundays because that's the Lord's day. Jesus is watching. And they would low-key use it as a shady insult. This was my favorite because I think we should continue this one on. Like, rumors would spread around in town. Oh, Alexander over there? He must have been conceived on a Sunday. So previously, Daddy would pick out who you were going to marry to keep your status and money or whatever. And even though some cultures allowed you to marry freely, a lot of the times, oddly enough, it was the landlord or landowners who would decide who you got to marry. This is because the landlord, could you imagine, first of all, if your landlord decided who you got to marry? Let me think about that for a minute. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. That would actually really suck. Anyways, so this is because the landlord held a lot of power and controlled the people that worked on his land. So when approaching the idea of marriage, the landlord is like, like, hey, I noticed that Ricky is really good at mowing the lawn, Sandra's really good at picking the weeds, they should get married, you know, they can have some kids, they can, like, make my lawn look real good together. So it's like, how is this going to benefit me? Which is really, like, what marriage is all about at the time. How is it going to benefit me, the landowner? So for commoners, a wedding didn't necessarily always happen within a church, or a priest didn't have to be present. And it's funny because weddings would literally happen at the church doors, just not inside the church. They referred to it as getting married on the church's porch, which sounds so ugly and not romantic, right? But then I love it. And it's actually really cute. It looks like a cute little, like, entryway, kind of like a gazebo. Like, it has 3 walls, an arched doorway, windows, and brick, exposed brick. We love that, don't we, ladies? Exposed brick, we love that. And that's where they would get married, in this little entryway. Cute. Once married, they had to have sex, right? And deflowering took place in the bedroom. Sessions led married in this little entryway. Cute. Once married, their lows and poo. It looks like a cute little, like, they referred to it as getting married on the church's porch. Which sounds so ugly and not romantic, right? But then I love it. And it's actually really cute. It looks like a cute little, like, entryway. That, don't we, ladies? Exposed brick. We love that. And that's where they would get married, in this little entryway. Cute. Once married, their first meal together is a large feast for the witnesses and family. After that, the bridal procession and the wife returned home. So once they got home, they had to have sex, right? And deflowering took place in the bedroom. One of the most important things to them was guaranteeing that if you were married, a woman was a virgin. Okay? And that was very important. And they believed that if you were a virgin, that meant 100% you were going to get pregnant once you had sex. Okay. So they had to make sure this man didn't marry a virgin. You're probably thinking, like, well, how the hell would they know? Well, I've got an answer. Look, this was like an actual job position available at this time, where after the deflowering happened, someone would go in into the room, like she just had sex, go in, pick up the sheets, hold them up, check for blood. Blood on the sheets, virgin. No blood, she's alive. Parents, usually they wanted proof that the couple had sexual relations on their wedding night. And if the sheet wasn't enough proof, well, guests had the option to follow the couple into their bedroom to watch them do it. So it's just dinner and a show, just to make sure that they're having sex. They watch. This is really weird. This is really gross because the wedding guests, one of them would leave the bedroom after everybody was watching with a little party paper. One would take the bride's garter or like a different piece of underwear, and this would be evidence that the couple had sex. So you know that awkward moment at a wedding when it's time for the garter toss, and the groom like does that thing, first of all, in the middle of the dance floor in front of all of us, we're all just like watching, and everyone's clapping, and then the groom disappears under the bride's dress, and you're like, it's going down on her right there, like, oh my god. And then he always pops out with like the garter in his teeth, and everyone's like, yay, everyone's all excited for some reason, right? Flicks it into the audience, the crowd goes wild. Wah. Anywho, this is literally where that tradition comes from, because it's the man essentially proving he and his bride have had sexual relations. Us, the wedding party, we were the witnesses. Hey, watched, you're a witness. Just like a takedown version, obviously. Back then, watch. I wonder if the room smelled. It was probably like really small, let's be real here. Hygiene, not that important back then. How many, if there's like a wedding party of like 10 to 12, right? Small bedroom, 10 to 12 people, you're having sex, no one has showered. Might be a little stinky in there, you know? Not just, let me know your thoughts. Was it stinky? Let me know. So in the 1600s, during the Renaissance, people got married with power. An example of this was the Medici family. Oh yeah. They had a net worth that in today's money amounts to over like $130 billion. They were celebrities. I mean, people thought of them as the Kardashians of their time. Now, these people in this family, they threw the most expensive, opulent, over the top, money on money on money on money on money type of wedding. Okay? They took weddings to the next level. These people threw some epic affairs. They had parades, they had floats, fireworks, they had a 56-course meal. Yeah, I don't know where they eat. I was thinking of as like when you go to medieval times, but if you add a wedding dress, kind of like that. Because this is the Renaissance era, or whatever. Again, everyone's probably stinky. That's all I can think about. What are you eating? 56 courses? What is that? What are they eating? I had a lot of questions. I wish I could go back in time and attend one of these weddings. But anyways, people considered the family, the Medici family, their weddings were like a national holiday. I mean, everyone in town participated. So before we move forward, let's recap. The Babylonians and their Hammurabi Code created the first ancient laws for marriage. They made the whole thing superficial, essentially. The Greeks gave us the concept of soulmates and fun. The Romans gave us pretty much everything else, right? They created what became weddings as we know today. Reception, tons of food, bridesmaids, the wedding cake, smashing the cake in the face, you know what I'm saying? The Middle Ages brought God into the picture, and of course the garter bells. We love that. And then the Renaissance period showed us you don't have to have a boring ass wedding. You can go off. You can have an elephant, you know, have a whole carnival. You get married. And what did America do for marriage? We found a way to make money off of all of it. Woohoo! America, we're really good at that. We always find a way to make money out of something, and found a way to turn the business of getting married into a billion-dollar industry that just keeps making up weird traditions, and for some reason, we just go with it. If you've been following me for a while, it's no secret that I have really put my hair through it. Facts.
This top fin kit includes the following items and makes setup quick and easy. First, place the tank on a sturdy level surface near an outlet. Then, using plain tap water, thoroughly rinse the aquarium.
I was blonde for a while, and then I went back to dark, and I went blonde again, and now I'm like kind of want to go blonde again, but I'm not going to do it. I've kept my natural hair color for a while because I'm really working on improving the overall look and health of my hair, but I also don't want a super complicated routine either, you know? With Way's new scalp serum and thick and full supplements, I now have a super simple, full. This is factual information I am sharing with you. Diamonds are pretty cheap to make. They're cheap. They're not that great. They're not that rare. And I'm about to shit all over it. So what happened? Well, there's a little company called De Beers. It has nothing to do with alcohol. But they control like 90% of the world's diamonds, which meant that they could sell those diamonds for however much they wanted. They convinced the world that diamonds were the only stone fit for a proposal. Now, it was the perfect way to express your love, or at least that's what they want us to believe. Before De Beers was around, something like 5% of women were proposed to with a diamond ring. Now, by the late 1960s, it was over half. That's a big jump, right? We don't do math here, but 5% to half? Whoa. So what changed? Well, De Beers, that company, they launched an ad campaign convincing Americans that diamonds are forever. And not only that, they're a girl's best friend. But according to De Beers, the bigger the diamond, the more love you have for your future wife. That's what they were selling us. We fell for it, damn it. As much as I want to go a little bit further into De Beers, let's leave De Beers here because I think I'm going to dig into them for a future episode about advertising. But you can't have a marriage episode without at least mentioning De Beers and diamonds. Though it makes my brain. So diamonds, not that rare, honestly, not that expensive. We're being ripped off, sold a lie. Okay? Great. It does. I'm not judging. You can still love diamonds. I'm just letting you know because we should know. Great. Now, the second thing America tells brides that they need, a crisp white wedding dress. Now, I always thought it was because it represented a woman being pure and clean. And I mean, that's true when it comes to like the religious side of things. But once again, for the most part, it doesn't even come from that. The idea of a white wedding dress actually comes from Queen Victoria. Yeah. So during her reign in the 1800s, she was beloved by her people and was also known as like the biggest trendsetter. She wore a white dress at her wedding to Prince Albert in 1840, and you guys, it was the ultimate flex. Before this wedding dresses weren't any particular color or style. It was just like whatever nice item you had, put it on. Now, the white dress was actually a huge flex back then because it was not easy to clean clothes. I mean, to this day, white is a bitch. I never wear it because within 5 minutes of wearing it, I spill something on it. Hard clean. I have a Clorox bleach pen. That thing doesn't work. You liars. You all see it work. It doesn't work. Anyways, back in the olden days, if you messed up your white dress, your only option was to just throw it away. So by Queen Victoria wearing a white dress that was clearly thousands of dollars, she was kind of like telling to the people, like, yeah, I'm only going to wear it once. So what, I'm rich, or just get on my level. As this trend evolved, America did its thing and was like, yeah, we wear white because it means you're a virgin, pure, like toilet paper, clouds, snow. It all makes sense. So, once you had the diamond engagement ring and you got the white dress, now got to plan the big day. Now, way back in the olden days, you could just decide one morning to get married, or your dad would be like, hey, you're getting married today, you know? And that's it, it was done. Eat some bread, pass some wine, shave your head, get cheese around a dark room, you're married. Simple. But today, you've got seating arrangements, tablecloths, florals, catering, DJs, and also you have to make those little gifts you feel required to give to people for coming to your wedding. It's just a lot. And that is all by design. Oh, yes. Because in 1934, a magazine was created called So You're Going to Be Married, a magazine for brides. Now, at this point in our dark history journey together, we shouldn't be surprised to find out that this bridal magazine was created by some old white man who went to Princeton. Because sure, that makes sense. And in that magazine, women start seeing for the first time things considered must haves for your perfect dream wedding day. As in, you must have this, or else everyone's going to judge you for having ugly centerpieces. And you don't want that. And just a little while later, after World War II, America introduces to us this thing called the American Dream, which is essentially, the wife, the kids, the dog. But in order to achieve this, step one, you gotta get married. So in 1950, marketing geared towards white women in America creates like this outline as to what weddings should look like, kind of essentially creating the golden age of marriage. People are starting to realize how much money can be made from weddings. Hotels start building event spaces specifically for these types of parties, Cakes are getting bigger, and more expensive. Women are feeling pressured to have like that splashy, amazing wedding because fucking Susie next door, she had a chocolate fountain at her wedding. And the bitch, But what all this was really doing was selling women the illusion that they too could be a rich princess for a day as she deserves, even if she went to crippling debt to get it. And going into debt for your wedding has only gotten worse. Things just keep adding up throughout the years. People thought they needed more and more to have that perfect American wedding. The average cost for a wedding today is around $28,000, which is a big number to begin with, because according to the 2019 census, the average American income was $31,000. Oh, and we can't forget to talk about Vegas weddings. Wake up at 9 a.m., go to the pool party, 7 Bloody Marys later. Maybe you're at a chapel saying I do to some guy named Bryce, all sweaty Elvis impersonators, like, kiss your bride, or whatever. And you're like, okay. I'm sure it happens to a lot of people out there. Or was it just me? Bryce, if you're watching it. Anyways, what Vegas did was slap America's fast food model onto the institution of marriage and just cheapened, quotes, the whole thing. Which, it's honestly like the purest thing we have. It's the purest option, really. It comes down to you, the person you love, and a witness who may or may not be dressed as Elvis. You don't need to impress a damn soul, It's nice, it's simple. And you'd think that's what a wedding's supposed to be, isn't it? I don't know. Well, of course, nobody cares about that because this is America, and, they want you to spend money. Today, the wedding industry brings about $58 billion. So nobody wants your ass to get married in Vegas. They're going to keep pumping us with these dreams and visions. And this got me thinking, is this why we kind of look down on Vegas weddings? Like, that's so cheap. I'm used to it. I feel like it's kind of turning. But, because we've been told to think that it's cheap just in order to keep us spending our money. It was just a thought. We've all been brainwashed. I mean, you best believe at my wedding day, if that ever happens, I'm gonna go all out, baby. Okay? So after my wedding, she definitely gets making some changes. I'm just kidding, I'm not getting married. But if I did, I would want to have a big old wedding, so I get it. I don't know why it's in us the way it is, but it just is. Right? God damn it, we fall for everything. Can't we have anything? Just something nice without being ripped off going into debt? My God. Anyways, well, everyone, thank you for learning with me today. I want to know what you learned. Let me know. Remember, don't be afraid to ask questions to get the whole story because you deserve that. I'd love to hear your reactions to today's story, so make sure to use the hashtag #HistoryHistory so I can follow along. Also, join me over on my YouTube where you can watch these episodes on Thursday after the podcast airs. While you're there, don't forget to catch Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. I hope you have a wonderful day today. You make good choices. I'll be talking to you next week. Goodbye. Dark History is an Audio Boom original. This podcast is executive produced by Bailey Sarian, Kimberly Jacobs, Julia McNeely from 3 Arts, Kevin Grush, and Claire Turner from Maiden Network. Writers, Katie Burris, Allison Filobos, Joey Scabuzzo, and me, Bailey Sarian. Shot and edited by Tafazwa Emarundwe. Research provided by Regina Dolza and Xander Elmore. Special thanks to our expert, Vicki Howard. And I'm your host, Bailey Sarian. Thank you. I'm here all day. Goodbye.
You want bedtime to be a good time.
That's good.
It matters where you stay. Conrad Hotels and Resorts. Hilton for the stay.
My mantra is that every next level demands a different you, and Purdue Global is giving me an opportunity to prepare myself for that next level. This is my comeback. Start yours today at purdueglobal.edu.
Hi friends, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. My name is Bailey Sarian and I'd like to welcome you to my study and to my podcast on history, of course. This is a chance to tell the story like it is and to share the history of stuff we would never think about, or at least like things I never thought about. That's what this means. So what I need from you is to just sit back, relax, and let's talk about that hot, juicy history goss, girl. Great. So, I know right now it feels like the world's ending. Everything is on freaking fire. Like, nobody knows what the hell is going on anymore. And, like, we're all connected to one another through our phones, social media, text, blah, blah, blah. But even though we have, like, all of this, sometimes it can feel like you're just more alone than ever, right? Online seems like everyone's angry. Ugh. They feel so disconnected from one another. This is so cheesy, but I was like, oh my god, you guys, there's no United States, right? Embarrassing. But what if I told you that we all have something in common? And no, I'm not talking about the bones and muscles, even though, I mean, that's true too. But today, I'm talking about a woman who is inside all of us. Oh yeah. A woman by the name of Henrietta Lacks. Now, some of you may have heard of Henrietta before, but some of you may be like, who's that? Well, get this. What if I told you Miss Lacks changed the world and saved all of our lives? Because she did. And how crazy is it that you probably don't know anything about her? At least I didn't. And maybe this is the first time you would have heard her name. So today, my friends, we are deep diving into a time not that long ago, actually less than 100 years ago, that was facing a whole bunch of diseases we don't even have to worry about today because of Henrietta. So, in order to understand Henrietta's story, we have to talk about how the foundation of trust was broken by a few important doctors back in the early 1900s. So let me open up my book. Oh, sorry. I opened it to the Henrietta chapter. We're in New York City, 1912. The Titanic is literally sinking. It's like around the same time. Rose refuses to give up the door and make room for Jack. We all know, Rose, there was room for Jack.
A new year and a new adventure with the perfect Chevy to take you anywhere with pure power unleashed and future-forward technology. Every path leads to new possibilities. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Jen's RX Bar Nut Butter and Oat has 10 grams of delicious protein. Nathan, he's still processing what's in his bar. Less is more delicious with RX Bar Nut Butter and Oat. RX Bar, no BS.
But that's not the story we're telling today. Because during that same time, in a state-of-the-art lab, was a well-respected doctor by the name of Alexis Rubel. And he was trying to do something splash. He was doing some interesting experiments. He wanted to create something that would really make him like a celebrity within the doctor community, or just like celebrity in general. Something that would just give him a lot of attention. Like front page of a magazine type of attention. Success. You know, like we've all heard the stories about the fountain of youth, the sorcerer's stone, the secret sauce of youth, the cure to aging, you know? Well, that's what Dr. Carell was looking for. This was his goal. Now, this was a big deal because he was amping up the people, getting them excited because he wanted to find the secret to living forever, which sounds like a total myth, giving me like bedtime story vibes. But Carell was dead serious about this. Like, he was going to do it. He wanted to live forever. Which, side note, but why do white old men always want to live forever? Like, what is that about? Is that just like mandatory for them? I don't get it. Why do you want to live forever? Like, you're not that great. You know? They never are. Whatever. Anyways, back to Dr. Carell's laboratory. When I said state-of-the-art lab, you're probably thinking like shiny, high-tech instruments, a microscope, maybe like a petri dishes, shiny chrome work surfaces, fluorescent lights, bright white walls, crisp white lab coats, sanitized, everything. But, nay. Dr. Carell was a goth king. There was no light in his lab. Now, this was because Carell believed that not only did sunlight kill cell cultures, he also thought that too much sunlight could mess with your brain. So Dr. Carell took these ideas and he went off, all the way off. His lab was a small room. There was like a single tiny skylight, but it was so dusty you could barely see out of it. Everything in his lab is painted black. I mean, the walls are black, the seats are black, he's wearing a black robe, like a tall black hood. Honestly, I looked up the pictures, you know, and it was like low-key giving KKK vibes, but in all black. Like, that's how doctors looked. Bizarre. I don't know, man. Behind him, though, in his lab, you would find like a wall of shelving with jars just filling up all the empty spaces. Now, each one of these jars would be filled with human organs. Now I'm talking hearts, lungs, kidneys, liver, all of it. This lab was considered the cutting edge of medicine at the time, and the man who was in the robe, this Carell guy, he had just won a Nobel Prize. This KKK looking. Okay. Carell was famous for developing new surgery techniques for organ transplants, which, great, love that. But really, everything he did came back to the root of his true belief, which was like eugenics. Ugh. We've talked about eugenics here many times before, but a quick refresher, eugenics is basically population control done by rich people to make sure that the traits considered quote unquote desirable continued on. And for some reason, desirable means white. I don't know why. For Carell, eugenics meant that he wanted to use his search for the fountain of youth to preserve the white race. So it would make sense that he's a big Nazi fanboy, and I'm not even making that up, because in 1936, this doctor, he publicly praised Adolf Hitler's racial policies, and even came out supporting the Nazi-controlled regime in France. He advocated for the state's elimination of quote-unquote undesirables, and basically, Carell supported Hitler's idea that the world would be better with only white people in it. So, honestly, he seems like the type of guy who would have like a big ass painting of Hitler hanging above his bed, and like in the painting, Hitler would be like shirtless, buff, a little bit of chest hair, like wrestling a snake. And I bet you the Carell guy was like, you know, he's that guy. Even though Carell had a bunch of stans and was working hard to be like Hitler's #1 fangirl, he still was not feeling satisfied with the success he was experiencing on his own. He wants to be bigger. He wants to really stand out. He wants to just be in the limelight. Stand out among the crowd. Remember the song? Thank you. Okay, so how do you do this? Well, Carell sets to work in his dark little evil vampire lab looking for a discovery that will guarantee his name gets into the history books. So remember all those little organs he had in the jars decorating the wall? So he goes over there, grabs one of those jars off the shelf, and removes from the jar a chicken heart. He then starts experimenting with said chicken heart. Now, I'm no scientist or doctor. Maybe you've noticed this. Not really sure what the goal was with the chicken heart or what he was doing, but indeed, he was doing it. So months go by. Dr. Carell finally comes out of his dark room to announce to the people that he has created an immortal chicken heart. Immortal chicken heart? Yep, you heard that right, Paul. Immortal chicken heart. I guess Dr. Carell had figured out a way to keep the dead chicken heart cells alive and beating completely on their own. So he's thinking, like, today chicken heart, but tomorrow it could be a human heart, you know? But I just have to say, like, Immortal Chicken Heart is the freaking coolest name, right? Like, I want to start a band. Immortal Chicken Heart, you know? Did you see that? In all could go on the road. So Dr. Carell takes this discovery to the press and he promises the people that he has the answer on how to live forever. Not only that, he will share his discovery with all of the people. The white people, though. You know, it's like, ugh. Only the white people. Anyway, the world was going gaga for this guy. He seems to find how to live forever. He's like telling people that. For decades, people thought Carell was like this brilliant genius. He got exactly what he wished for. He became so famous that he ended up on the cover of Time magazine. Not just once, he was on the cover twice. To us, like, it's like whatever, but Time magazine back then was like everything. Icons only on that cover. Still true to this day, but like, had a big impact, man. Big deal. Big deal. But not long after Dr. Carell died, the truth came out. In 1944, Dr. Carell died, and people were getting a little suspicious, you know what I'm saying? First of all, dead. I thought we were living forever, Dr. Carell. Second of all, other doctors did some digging around. You know, they were trying to recreate the Immortal Chicken situation that made Carell famous in hopes to maybe further the progress, you know? But they were having no luck. And as much more tried to understand his work, it was revealed that Dr. Carell was indeed full of shit. Oh, yes. His whole experiment was fake. He was a fraud. Show pony who wanted 5 minutes of fame. Or 15 minutes of fame, sorry about that, yeah. He had been fooling the public and the medical community for years. Everyone believed Carell had kept the same chicken heart alive outside the chicken's body. Which, yeah, crazy, but they believed it. In reality, Dr. Carell, was just dunking that heart in a little potion of cells to make it beat, air quotes here, before all of his TV appearances. That thing could only live for a few minutes at a time, max. And no wonder he wouldn't tell anyone the secret, because he pulled a Theranos. Did you guys watch that show, the Theranos one? I mean, I love a strong female scientist who knows what she wants and goes after it, but like that shit was kind of fucked up, girl. Like, come on. You're making this look bad. Us women scientists. I'm including myself because I don't know. So, the whole Immortal Chicken Heart fiasco, not just a weird ass story / the name of my new band, it actually had some pretty big consequences. Thanks to Dr. Carell, cellular science had gotten a very bad reputation. No one wanted to believe bold claims how cells could, I don't know, save lives. And why should they? This doctor went on TV and talked to the media, and he lied, and he ran with it, and he made promises that were empty. Trust was at an all-time low with people and science. Many believing cellular science was all just Nazi science, which was like, where's the lie, you know, at that time. The only thing that could change people's minds would be a medical discovery so huge it would change the reputation of cellular research forever. It had to be something so big that people would essentially forget about the little liar and his immortal chicken heart. And boy, did they find it in a place you wouldn't expect. Where life is created deep inside a woman's vagina. But first, an ad break. Sometimes after a long day of work, I'll come home, cuddle with my precious little angel, Sainty Poo, it's my dog, you know, now, change into some super comfy clothes, and then just completely disappear. Sometimes my family and friends will be like, girl, where you at, you know? What are you doing? But what they don't know is that I'm playing Best Fiends. Oh yeah, So I'm declining all calls and ignoring all texts because I'm obviously busy collecting fiends. Sorry, but not really. Others may wonder about your mysterious disappearances. But if you're having as much fun with Best Fiends as I am, it's no secret why you sneak off to play. If you've never heard of Best Fiends, well, it is a free-to-download mobile puzzle game with thousands of exciting levels for new adventures and challenges every time you play. What I love most about Best Fiends is since they have thousands of levels, you will never get bored. And with offline play, you'll never be stranded without fun, even if you lose your internet connection. There are brand new events and challenges that pop up all year round, so you've always got some chance to earn exclusive in-game items, characters, and rewards. It's so easy to pick up Best Fiends and play a few levels after a long day of work, or running errands, or just while you're on the toilet. You know, I like to play before bed as I'm unwinding from the day. Let me tell you what level I'm on, because it's quite embarrassing. I'm on level 1532, so you can tell that I've obviously put in some work. It's fun. When I'm playing Best Fiends, I totally get in the zone, okay? And like, I just zone out, leap off the cliff. It's just fun. It's fun. Download your new favorite getaway, Best Fiends, for free today on the App Store or Google Play. You'll even get $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5. That's friends without an R. Best Fiends. So now you understand that people during this time didn't have a trust in cellular science, right? Correct. So now, let's fast forward to America in the early 1950s, where there's a woman by the name of Henrietta Lacks, or Penny as her family called her. Henrietta was a bright and caring woman, and as a mother, a wife, and a daughter, her smile was sent to light up every room she walked into. She was known for her fantastic style, her love of dancing. It was said she was a great cook, and her favorite color was red. But more than anything,
We are always in motion. Getting this, fixing that, arriving to destinations in life and around the globe. Sometimes it's beautiful. Sometimes it's a blur. Because life never stops, you need someone you can trust to go right along with you, no matter where the future leads. Enterprise, for lives in drive.
TaxAct doesn't care which tax filing software you've used in the past. TaxAct just wants you to be done.
her biggest passion in life was being a mother. At this time, Henrietta was married to her husband, whose name was Day, and she's also pregnant with her 5th child. Now, at this time, Henrietta was about 31 years old, and she said that this pregnancy, it felt different. Like, she knew something was just off. Henrietta expressed feeling pressure, or like there was a knot inside of her lower area. And she kind of just put it off, which I get because pregnancy is pretty wild. Your body does crazy things during pregnancy, and there's like all sorts of, well, I hear that there's all sorts of random aches, pain, pressure. So a random pain plus the inconvenience of having to go to the hospital while she still had 4 other kids, and then running a household, like I get it. Going to the hospital kind of gets put on the back burner. But also I understand because, like, honestly, I'm not going to the doctors. I'm only going if I'm missing an arm. Like, do not take me. Do not no. You know, like, if anything, I just could put some Vicks on it, some 7-Up, drink some 7-Up. Like, I'll be good. Are you aware of our healthcare system? It's not that great. Don't lose an arm. That's not the point. Let's go back to Henrietta, baby. Focus on the story. Anyway, so Henrietta, things took quite the turn after she gave birth. So she gives birth to her 5th child. Now the pain continued to get worse, and Henrietta said that, it was excruciating. She was bleeding nonstop, and also she felt like she found a lump inside of her. So it got to the point where she had no other choice. She needed to go to see a doctor. So Henrietta then goes to Johns Hopkins Hospital, which was the only hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, that accepted Black patients at the time. And remember, this was the 1950s. It wasn't just diners and schools and like water fountains. Healthcare and doctors and hospitals were segregated if they were even available in the first place. But that's a whole other issue for maybe a different day. But keep that in mind as we continue to talk about Henrietta. Alright, so the hospital runs a bunch of tests on her, and let me tell you, the results, they aren't good. Unfortunately, her pain turned out to be caused by a large tumor in her uterus, and the diagnosis was cervical cancer. Now, at this point in time, it was common practice for doctors to run tests on samples of patients' cells, and then use anything left over for other research. And they would do all of this without telling the patient, like regardless of who the patient was. It sounds crazy, but I guess it was like normal then. And this is what the doctors did while Henrietta is in the hospital getting her cancer treatment. Doctors took a sample of her ovarian cells and sent it down to the Johns Hopkins lab. Down in the lab, a researcher named Dr. Gay gets the delivery of Henrietta's tissue and starts running his normal tests on the cells. With the leftovers, Gay decides to make something called a cell culture with it. Now, it's confusing if you don't know what a cell culture is, but the easiest way to think of it is when you think back to high school biology maybe, you know when you had like those little petri dishes and you put some liquid with like another drip drop or something else, and you either watch the cells grow or eat each other or just like, look at the petri dish and be like, I don't understand, but okay, it was better than like listening to a lecture. It was weird. I don't know. Stuff would happen. So you put the cell in the petri dish with something else, and then something happens. And that, my friends, is why I got a D- in biology. Thank you so much. But it basically means to grow cells in a lab. I could have just said that, really, huh? Thank you so much. Welcome to my podcast. Anyway, Dr. Gay puts Henrietta's cells under a microscope. He lets it sit. Lets it marinate a little bit. I'm not really sure how much time passes, but I'm gonna say Dr. Gay probably went to lunch, you know? Probably ate a sandwich, Jell-O salad or something, maybe Spam. Anyways, time passes, and Dr. Gay comes back to the lab, expecting Henrietta's cells to be dead, just like all the other cell cultures that he normally works with. But this, my friends, is when he finds out her cells were not only alive, but thriving. Oh yeah. Now, cells cannot survive outside of the body. The fact that her cells were indeed alive and thriving, oh, sounding alarm, this is crazy. This was a big deal. This was huge. But it was about to get crazier, because Henrietta's cells had not only survived, they seemed to be doubling. Oh, this was mind-blowing. This would make Henrietta's cells the first human cells to not just survive, but also multiply outside of the human body ever. In history. This would be like the rom-com spit take moment, you know, and they're like, yeah. So this is so important because since Henrietta's cells were staying alive outside of the human body, this meant they could test cures for diseases on cells instead of testing on actual humans. Cool. I mean, plus they would be a never-ending supply. They could easily test on thousands of cells, and it's safe to say you can't really do that easily with humans. I mean, I guess you can, but I think, you know, let's take a quick look at Tuskegee, birth control, Puerto Rico, you know, the MK Ultra. It seems like it doesn't really go well normally when you test on humans. But this is the main way to do infinite testing. More testing meant a better chance to find a cure, or just cures in general, and who doesn't want that? But while Henrietta's cells were changing everything for Dr. Gay, Henrietta was lying upstairs in her hospital bed having all these tests done on her. They end up operating on Henrietta for her ovarian cancer, and they sew radium inside her body to treat the cancer. Radium. Okay? You know, like, I guess that was the best treatment at the time, but sadly for Henrietta, it was too late. A few weeks go by, and on October 4th, 1951, 31-year-old Henrietta Lacks would sadly die alone at Johns Hopkins Hospital. She left behind her 5 children and her devastated husband, Day. But Henrietta's cells were still being experimented with by Dr. Gay. Henrietta never got the chance to know just how special she and her cells really were. In fact, no one would know for a very long time because Dr. Gay gave her cells a code name. He called them HeLa cells. It was like HE for Henrietta and then LA for lax. HeLa. He's like, no. So literally though, like nobody else knew Henrietta's identity. No one knew where these cells came from. And
Oops.
when Dr.
Shovel.
Gay had taken her sample to the lab, it was simply labeled colored. Like it didn't have a name on it. Weeks go by. Dr. Gay is still using Henrietta's cells for testing, and the tests are still blowing his mind. So he starts to get a little cocky. Dr. Gay goes to the press and also makes a TV appearance when he makes a couple TV appearances. And just like that doctor earlier in Corral, he's like, hey guys, look what I did over here. He tells thousands of people watching or reading his article that he, and he alone, had discovered the cells that could potentially lead us to the cure for many diseases in society. And there was one disease in particular that had been making its way through America over the last few decades and absolutely destroying the lives of the most innocent people. But it wasn't until a well-respected leader caught this disease that it was officially labeled public enemy number 1. But first, let's pause for an ad break. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the amount of choices there are out there? Whether you're shopping for cereal or toilet paper, ketchup, there are just so many options. It's hard to know what's best for you. When it comes to finding skincare products that actually work, it's even more overwhelming. I've been dealing with a few, not even a few, quite a few stress breakouts, and I was looking for products that could help calm my skin. And, there are a ton of different brands that popped up with a bunch of different ingredients, highly recommended, leaked on Google. How am I supposed to know what's actually going to work? It's too much. Tell me what I need. Finding skincare products that actually work for you, it can be very complicated. And that's why I'm always excited to partner with Apostrophe, the sponsor of this episode. Apostrophe is an online platform that connects you with an expert dermatology team to get customized acne treatment for your unique skin. Through Apostrophe, you can get access to oral and topical medications that use clinically proven ingredients to help clear acne. All you have to do is simply fill out an online consultation about your skin goals and medical history. Then you're going to snap a few selfies, and a board-certified dermatologist will create your first customized treatment plan. Apostrophe offers access to treatment for all types of acne, from hormonal acne to facial acne, even back, chest, and butt acne. They treat breakouts from head to toe, baby. Yippee-ki-yay. I have been using Apostrophe for over a year now. Has it been over a year? Has it been 2 years? Either way, I freaking love it. No matter what your skincare goals are, Apostrophe has built dermatologists who will create a skincare plan that is totally tailored to you and your skin. So for my stress acne, I sent through updated pictures through Apostrophe, and one of their dermatologists sent me an updated skincare plan. Quickly, mind you, it's not like you have to wait days or something. And all of my prescriptions were shipped directly to me. So no waiting in line at the pharmacy or just waiting for an appointment or something, Love that. So right now I have a special deal for my audience. Get your first visit for only $5 at apostrophe.com/darkhistory when you use the code DARKHISTORY. That's a saving of $15. This code is only available to you, my listeners. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/darkhistory. Then you're going to click Begin Visit. Then use the code DARKHISTORY at sign up, and you'll get your first visit for only $5. Thank you, Apostrophe, for sponsoring this episode. Welcome back. So Henrietta has these special cells. Gay is like, hey everybody, look at what I did. And he's looking forward to his moment on Time magazine. And then meanwhile, America has been dealing with an invisible enemy for decades, which again was destroying families all across the country. It's time for us to meet polio. Oh yes, many of us have heard the name. Polio, right? Yeah, you've heard it. But what exactly is polio? Well, let me tell you, actually, I looked it up. You're welcome. Polio is a virus that attacks your spinal cord, weakens your muscles over time, and could potentially leave you paralyzed for life. Soon, polio exploded into a full-blown epidemic in the early 1900s, which maybe sounds familiar because, like, same shit, different era. COVID. But it's like polio. You know what I'm saying? You get it. The people polio was affecting and killing the most were children. So, obviously, this is freaking people out because their kids were getting sick and in some cases even dying. Polio could spread easily simply by contacting a sick person, contaminated food, or drinking water contaminated with feces. And I know that sounds gross, it's like, who's drinking poop water? But this was before there was a solid water filtration system in place, so maybe the water was a little, like, shitty, you know? Polio actually was curable, but only if you had money for treatments, which just like now, a lot of people didn't have the money for the treatments. But polio really becomes a big deal when it's announced that someone very importante has this virus. The freaking President of the United States, Mr. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Yeah, Mr. FDR himself had been diagnosed with polio in 1921, but his little sneaky ass kept it a secret from the public for years. Now, his people and the people around him, they didn't like want to make a big deal out of it at first because if you're the president, like it would make you look bad that you're weak and sick. Like he's supposed to be immune to everything. I think that's one of the in the job description. So they're like, don't say anything. But as the years went on, I think it got worse, and it got to the point where he couldn't hide it anymore. So he publicly came out and was like, look, I have polio. Peace out. And after that, it was like all hands on deck. Scientists are going hardcore searching for a cure. Politicians are holding, like big fancy fundraisers for all those people with money to raise funds for research and treatments for a cure. So of course, when you go to these fundraisers, it's mainly like the wealthy people who have money. And they're like, we gotta save the children, what about the children? As long as they're white, what about them? It was really like to benefit the white kids who get polio and stuff, like a hot mess. FDR, the president, was happy to support the multiple segregated fundraisers, balls, and bake sales that happened in support of polio. And of course, his polio foundation was happy to take donations from Black and white Americans alike. But once all the money was put together, it went to a bougie polio recovery clinic in Georgia called the Warm Springs Foundation, which only treated white patients. Guess who was a VIP member there? The president himself, Mr. FDR. Honestly, not a great look, but it happened. So, people have been looking for a cure for polio for decades. Even after FDR died, polio was still a huge epidemic and the search ramped up. Dr. Gay has discovered what he thinks could be the cure, Henrietta cells. And once word gets out about what's going on with Dr. Gay, everybody wants to get their hands on these HeLa cells. Let's pause for an ad break, shall we? Certain people just make my life so much easier. I don't know what I'd do without them, for reals. For example, Dark History, I have a team of people who help me so much, okay? There are researchers, writers, editors, and I'm so thankful to have so much support on the podcast. It's like if you own a growing business and need to hire, ZipRecruiter makes hiring so much easier because they do the work for you. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/darkhistory. ZipRecruiter uses powerful technology to find and match the right candidates up with your job. You can easily review these recommended candidates and invite your top choices to apply. Additionally, ZipRecruiter has a complete suite of tools that makes it easy to filter, review, and even rate your candidates. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Oh yeah. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site based on G2 satisfaction ratings as of January 1st, 2022. Whatever the hell that means. In fact, the hardest thing you have to do is remember the special URL, ZipRecruiter.com/darkhistory. That's where you go to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/darkhistory. DARKHISTORY. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. America in the 1950s. Oh, I guess they were good at mass producing. Demand is high. Everybody wants to use these cells to find a cure because they keep reproducing. Like these cells, they can do so much with them. So everybody wants them, so they can find a cure, right? Great. And in order to make this happen, to mass produce the cells, a factory is needed in order to mass produce and ship and just run a full-on business operation. So they're looking for normal locations, labs and stuff. They come across an old Fritos factory, same shit. Yeah, the chips, the delicious snack. No, I don't think Fritos are my least favorite. Honestly, if I'm desperate, I'll eat a Frito. We're not talking about Fritos. I'm just thinking about Fritos right now because that's where they set up shop for medical lab. Fritos factory. Come on, that's funny. I mean, to be fair, they weren't pumping out cells and chips at the same time, but it's just an odd choice that I like to laugh at and giggle. Anyway, they start pumping out Henrietta's cells, making more. We're not talking hundreds of cells here. Oh, nay. Or even thousands. At one point, they're making as many as 6 trillion, trillion cells a week. Now this, my friends, is when people realize that there is a lot of money to be made here. What do the whites love the most? Money. And these things are being sold and shipped for medical research all over the world. Oh, shipping to different countries, continents, other states. Great, Is it? I don't know, Paul. Great. A batch of the HeLa cells make their way to the University of Pittsburgh in 1954, where a scientist is working on a polio vaccine. He's trying to solve the mystery and create the vaccine. But every time he tests normal cells against polio in his petri dish, the polio cells always win. It's not having any luck. But once this doctor placed Henrietta's cells into the petri dish, everything changed. It's kind of like a little cocktail, in a little shaker. He puts 2 parts polio, 2 parts HeLa cells, dash of garnish with I think I'm hungry. Fritos, margarita. Anyway, this turns into the most epic battle between the vaccine and virus. But this time, the vaccine has a secret weapon. He added the HeLa cells, aka Henrietta Lacks cells, to the petri dish situation. So he makes the vaccine, it's successful. I wonder if he celebrated. Because that's huge. He just got the vaccine for polio. It's groundbreaking. Once word gets out, the vaccine becomes available to the public. Making it quick. Vaccines for everyone. And by the 70s, polio is pretty much virtually over. America went from tens of thousands of people, mostly children, getting this disease. It went down to just 10 cases over 10 years. 10. Tens of thousands to now just 10. That's wild. I think you did it, sir. I think you did it. Good for you, with Henrietta cells. Science seems to be advancing, but not only that, many see it again, money-making machine. Naturally, Dr. Gay, he's going on. He's riding this big wave, his discovery. I know what you're thinking. Doesn't he give any credit to Henrietta? The woman whose cells these are? The only reason any of this is happening? Of course not. This is dark history. At some point, there is a reporter who goes up to Dr. Gay, and they're like, Dr. Gay, tell us, Dr. Gay, What does HeLa stand for? But when Dr. Day has the opportunity to, like, you know, give Henrietta credit, he, typical, freaking, typical, right? He says HeLa stands for Helen Lane. Yeah, he's like standing by a window, and the lady's like, what does it stand for? And he's like, looks out the window, Helen. He's like, Elaine, outside. Lane, Helen Lane. That's what I imagine. I just came up with Helen Lane really quick. The point is, he gives credit to a totally fake person. But everyone accepts this, and they're like, oh my god, Helen Lane? Icon, legend, wow, like, she saved us from polio. They're putting her on t-shirts and shit, like, Helen Lane for president. I don't think that really happened, but, like, people were excited about Helen Lane. So the whole country's celebrating. Everyone is so happy that there's a vaccine available to prevent this disease from continuing on. The polio nightmare is finally over. Yay. Meanwhile, the Lax family, oh, they have no idea that their mother/wife is the reason people were able to celebrate. No one had told the family anything, which kind of weird, but okay, choices were made. What makes the situation even more sad was that while doctors and scientists were making bank off of the advancements of the HeLa cell, Henrietta's family was struggling. They didn't have access to basic health care. It was said that one of her sons was homeless, living on the street, just going through it. And to make matters worse, scientists aren't done trying to take from the Lax family. In 1976, out of the blue, Day, Henrietta's husband, picks up the phone and the emotional roller coaster begins. Yeah. Oh yeah. So when these scientists called the Lax family, they were using just a ton of medical terms, phrases, just stuff that you and I, non-scientists, would not understand. They're like food cell culture, mitochondriac, biology terms. That's all I can think of. Neurons. So they call, saying all this stuff, asking for cell samples from the Lax family. But Mr. Lax, he wasn't a scientist. He didn't understand cell science, so he really could not make sense of what the person on the other line of the phone was saying. What Day got out of the call was, we've got your wife. She's alive in a lab. We've been doing research on her for the last 25 years. Like, that's how Day translated it. Like, I'm sorry, what? Could you imagine the roller coaster of emotions you'd be going through if that's what you thought the scientists were doing? And you thought your wife or your husband, your partner, is still alive? This poor man is probably just like, doesn't know what to do. But what researchers really wanted were more cell samples from the family. Okay, because they knew that Henrietta's cells were something special. So, like, what else does this family have to offer us? Maybe they have even more super cells in them. They're thinking maybe they got like supersonic whatever. And the only way to find out is by having a family member come in and get tested. But nothing ended up coming from that call. I mean, Day didn't know what they were talking about, and I can't speak on his behalf, but I could imagine he's confused, scared, misunderstanding. I mean, they didn't really answer anything for him. Poor guy. Years later, the researchers tried calling the family once again. This time they got Henrietta's youngest daughter. Her name is Deborah. Now, Deborah Lax was in her late 20s by now, and she had 2 kids of her own. But she had this deep fear of getting ovarian cancer and dying young, just like her mother. So when she answers the call, automatically Deborah thinks they want to test her for ovarian cancer. She's scared, but she decides to put her trust in the doctors. So she goes in, she gives her samples thinking like, hey, at least like I'm gonna find out if I have ovarian cancer and I can really go from there, you know? Either way, she felt like it was just a smart move to make. Well, Deborah goes in for the testing, but then she waits for days, months, years. A call never comes with test results. I know. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure we can all relate on this. If you're waiting to get a call about whether or not you have cancer, I'm sure you'd be freaking out just waiting. And mind you, having months go by, years, and no answer, I'd be like, that's it, I'm dying. I'm dying tomorrow. You know? Who wouldn't be freaking out? And she did. It was said that Deborah had like several emotional breakdowns over the next few years. So it makes sense that she swore off ever working with scientists and researchers ever again. But once again, bitch, ring, ring. That phone rings. Ring, 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 ring. Deborah answers. Yet again, another doctor on the end of the line. She's like, what now? This man, he went by the name of Dr. Roland Patillo. He tells Deborah he actually worked directly under the doctor who took their mother's cells. At first, Deborah wants to hang up the phone because Wynn has like a doctor or scientist ever actually helped them with something, you know? But as the conversation went on, something about this call just felt different. For the first time, this doctor wasn't calling to ask for something, you know? Instead, he wanted to give them something, and he had a gift for them. He told the family that he wanted to give them a headstone for their mother's unmarked grave, which is like so nice, but also so sad that she was in an unmarked grave and she literally saved the world. Ugh, boy, vey. Patillo explains that there's no one in the world like their mother. Their mother's cells were so powerful that they made copies of them and sent them to labs all around the world and even outer space. That's right, their mother went to space. Damn, Henrietta, she did that. She did that shit. Oh, and the polio vaccine, it wouldn't exist without your mom. That's what he was telling them, you know? Because of Miss Henrietta Lacks, millions of lives were saved and medicine was changed forever. And listen to this, the cells were so powerful. Tio explained that HeLa cells could live without a body. So even though Henrietta had died 30 years ago, some part of her lived on. In fact, her cells were considered immortal. For Deborah, who had grown up without knowing anything about her mother, the knowledge that Henrietta still existed in a way, and that she had been like responsible for saving thousands, maybe millions of lives, was overwhelming. I'm sure. You think? That would be really hard to believe, huh? You'd be like, what? What? So this was a turning point for the Lax family, and Dr. Patillo continued to maintain a close relationship with them. Dr. Patillo questions about what happened to her mother, explaining all the science behind the cells, And now there are more extras than ever before. HelloFresh's selection of delicious add-ons is getting bigger and better, baby, every week. Featuring quick breakfasts and lunches, proteins, savory sides, and even crave-worthy desserts. So no matter what you're craving, HelloFresh has something for you. My favorite meal from HelloFresh is the beef bulgogi bowl. It's so delicious. I mention it every time because nothing has yet. And also, all of the recipe cards that are provided in cooking any meal is really simple to follow. If you want to try out America's #1 meal kit, go to hellofresh.com/darkhistory16 and use code darkhistory16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. That's right, baby. hellofresh.com/darkhistory16 and use code darkhistory16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. So by the 1970s, Henrietta is finally being recognized as the actual person behind the Gila cell. But it's not really front page news, and this might have been the end of what the public knew about Henrietta until years later. In 1988, a student named Rebecca Snoot takes a biology class. She's in college. She goes to biology class. She's sitting there. During a lecture, her college professor is saying all these names that are important to biology. He's writing them down on the board. We got good words. Then he writes down the name Henrietta Lacks, and the professor tells everyone in the class, because of this person, polio is no longer a thing. And then he just erases the name and moves on. And Rebecca is like, wait, what? This sparks her noggin, right? So after class, she goes up to her professor and she's like, hey, can you tell me more about this Henrietta? What is she lacking? I don't get it. And he's like, I wish I could, but no one really knows anything about her. Rebecca's like, wait, girl. You just told the class that her cells were one of the most important things to happen to the world. You just said that, but you don't know anything else about her? It wasn't adding up, And Rebecca remained curious. But this was a time when Google was not a thing yet. I know, how did you survive? So sad. But she had to do some in real life sleuthing, which led her right down the Henrietta rabbit hole. So she's making all these different phone calls, she's taking notes, and this leads her to the door of our friend, Dr. Roland Tio. So she asked if he can introduce her to the Lacks family because she just really wants to know the whole story. And at first, he's like, no, you can't talk to them. They've been through enough. They've been taken advantage of. Absolutely not. He's very protective of the family. But Rebecca is persistent. And finally, Dr. Tio is convinced that she does have good intentions and, he feels good about her. So he decides to put her in touch with Henrietta's daughter, Deborah Lacks. So Deborah and Rebecca decide to meet up. And Rebecca is excited to talk to Deborah about the amazing things Henrietta has done for medicine and just hear her first-hand experience. And Deborah's like, yeah, Dr. Tio already told me. All Deborah really cared about at this point was getting to know her mother. Deborah was just a newborn baby when Henrietta died, and it was hard for her family to talk about her after Henrietta's sudden death. And Deborah, she just wanted to know basic things, what was her mother's favorite color? What did her mother smell like? All the things that some people just take for granted. I know I do. She wanted to know, did she have nail polish? She just wanted to know her mom, Deborah. And Rebecca, she doesn't have the answers Deborah's looking for. But with Dr. Tio's help and the public eye now on the family, she can start putting the pieces together as best as she can. In 2010, she visited a laboratory where a large supply of HeLa cells were being stored, and what she saw was a floor-to-ceiling freezer with vials of red liquid, each of them containing a tiny face of Henrietta. Also, Deborah got to see this, and she just like, I guess she just like was. She gasped. She's like, I can't believe this is all my mother. God, like, what a, that'd be wild. I couldn't even imagine. Now this encounter was very meaningful for Deborah, who was a very spiritual person. Feeling her mother's presence and knowing Henrietta was still alive in a way, she felt like she's even protecting her. She told Rebecca that she believed her mother was responsible for bringing them together. Deborah felt her mother's presence everywhere and believed her spirit continued to guide her through life. This whole story inspires Rebecca to write a book about Henrietta Lacks to spread awareness of her impact on the world. And she teams up with Deborah and Dr. Tio to get the whole story. And when the book was completed, it would end up on the New York Times bestseller list. And in 2017, it would be made into a movie starring Oprah. I found it quite beautiful how Henrietta was able to give life to so many people, even after she died so young. On top of that, Henrietta is the reason scientists found the link between HPV and cervical cancer, which has led to saving millions of women from the same cancer that she had died from. So if you at home have gotten a polio shot, maybe you've done IVF, maybe you even got checked out for HPV, or I know, even taking your dog in for a parvo shot. Well, guess what? Miss Henrietta Lacks has indeed been a part of your life. Henrietta's cells have changed the world. In fact, since they were first discovered, scientists have replicated the HeLa cells so many times that if you took every cell ever grown and laid them end to end, it would wrap around the earth 3 times. Hello, hi. That's shocking because cells are very small. You can't even see them with your naked eye. Can you see it right now? No, right? Exactly. So it's impressive that we could go around the earth 3 times. Are you impressed? You should be. Doesn't this sound like a superhero movie though? A Nazi with a creepy laugh trying to live forever, an old white dude trying to take credit for something someone else did, and a crazy disease ripping America apart. Then along comes Henrietta's immortal cells to save the day. We should be forever grateful to Henrietta. We really should, because I think all of us had to get the polio shot in order to start school, correct? Thank you, Miss Henrietta. And honestly, she should be the first name mentioned in biology class. I mean, you would think, right? But instead, in my high school class, we had to like memorize the periodic table of elements or whatever. I'm sure using that a lot, you guys. Oxygen, H2O. Oh wait, that's water. Use it every day. So even though taking Henrietta's cells for research was a normal thing to do back then, they didn't have to do her dirty and leave her name out of science books. Her face should be everywhere. She should be like the face of medicine almost. You would think, right? She saved all of us, goddammit. Can't we do something for her? It's easy to think that this story is super messed up and sad, because honestly it is. But instead of letting it get you down, think of what we can do to really give Henrietta the credit she deserves, right? I think something as simple as having a conversation will go a very long way. Like telling your friend about a new story you learned today. Hey, have you heard of Henrietta Lacks? You may not have, but, you know, she's definitely inside you. That would get their attention. Yeah. So, my friends, stay curious, even when people don't have answers. Have conversations. And don't forget to get your annual pap smear or your polio vaccine stuff. And look, I'm not going to act like I know everything about this. There's so much I had to leave out of today's story. A good place to learn more is by checking out HenriettaLacksFoundation.org, which I will leave in the description or information box below. Well, everyone, a big thank you for learning with me today. Remember, don't be afraid to ask questions or be curious, because that's all the fun in it, baby. Now, I'd love to hear your reactions to today's story, so make sure to use the hashtag #DarkHistory over on social media so I can spy and see what you're talking about. Also, join me over on my YouTube where you can watch these episodes on Thursday after the podcast airs. And while you're there, don't forget to check out my murder, mystery, and makeup. I hope you have a great day today. You make good choices, and I'll be talking to you next week. Goodbye. Dark History is an Audio Boom original. This podcast is executive produced by Bailey Sarian, Kimberly Jacobs, Julia McNeely from 3 Arts, Kevin Rush, and Claire Turner. A big thank you to our writers, Allison Villalobos, Katie Burris, Joey Scaluzzo, and me, Bailey Sarian. Hi. Shot and edited by Tafatswa Namalungwe. Research provided by Regina Dolsa. And a special thank you to our expert, Johns Hopkins Medical Institute. Like, that was huge. That was huge. I was, like, really flattered that they were willing to help us out with this episode. Like, fuck yeah. Thanks, guys. Anyways, I'm Bailey Sarian. I'm your host. And I'm wondering why you're still here, actually. Don't you got something to do?
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story with a professional website that reflects who you are and what you have to offer. Customize every element of your website to meet your needs and achieve your goals. Create a unique visual experience that enhances your product and amplifies your message. Expand your website with content that pushes your business forward. Share content that matters to your audience. And present it the way you envision it, from the biggest ideas to the smallest details. Your website, your voice, your platform.
Hi, friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day today, whatever day it is. Is it Wednesday? It's Thursday? Maybe it's Tuesday. I don't know. My name is Bailey Sarian, and I'd like to welcome you to my study, where my friends hang out. Now, they don't talk to me, they just ignore me. And to my podcast, Dark History. This is a chance to tell the story like it is and share the history of stuff, I don't know, maybe you never thought about, right? I didn't. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about that hot, juicy history goss. Okay, listen, last season, a lot of poop jokes showed up in our episodes. Like, too many poop jokes. I was like, you guys, the poop jokes, no more. But with that being said, I was sitting on the toilet a couple of months ago. You know, the commode, the porcelain throne, fit for a queen. And it was that time of the month. I was bleeding. It was time to get my oil changed, as I said. It was not a good day for me. So I'm bleeding. I don't want to be there. I have cramps. I got a headache. I'm pissed because why not? Nothing's going my way. So a lot of times when I'm bleeding, I just keep the box of tampons next to the toilet because, look, it's going to be here for a while. I'm going to be using that shit, right? Convenient. I could grab it. It's right there. Awesome. So I'm doing my business. Grab a tampon out of the box. As one does. I'm kind of sitting there. I look at the tampon, and it has like a message on it on the wrapper on the outside. It was like motivational words. And I was like, oh, okay, cute. And I was reading it, and it said like, you go, girl. I was like, okay, I'm not even thinking about this one. It said, stretch yourself. That one I had a little follow-up question with, but okay. And then it also said, like, kill it, like, it was just, look, it was like little fortune cookie messages, but on the tampon. And the reason I'm saying this, well, first of all, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what the hell is this about? Who is this helping? Okay, this is not, I don't feel motivated because of my tampon. I just ruined a full set of Egyptian cotton bed sheets. I'm not gonna reach for the stars because my tampon told me to. No one was like, yeah, my life sucks. Then I read that tampon wrapper. It really turned me around. Tampons are complicated. Anyways, so what I'm getting at is that I got myself on Google, as I do. That's why I Googled. And I looked up, like, who the hell made these tampons? Because look, these tampons, all of them have these stupid little motivational speeches on them. And like, what the hell? Who did this to me? Maybe some old man thought it was a good idea. And sure enough, the corporation behind that was not great, not shady. I mean, like, this wasn't even the worst thing they've ever done. It was far from it. And now, you know, I love talking about shady companies. I mean, we've done it a lot here. So much that if I ever disappear, we have multiple suspects. Okay, that ain't gonna stop me today. Because the subject of today's episode has been linked to some seriously dark stuff. I mean, they've been allegedly exposing babies to toxic chemicals and allegedly taking advantage of America's elderly people and motivating us with our tampons. Welcome to the story of Johnson & Johnson, a family company. Oh, to circle back to the tampon that said stretch yourself, it was a sport tampon, so I'm pretty sure that they were trying to say, like, motivate you to stretch before working out. But what a weird thing to put on a tampon. Stretch yourself. Anyways, back to Johnson & Johnson. So our story starts all the way back in the 1800s. Robert Wood Johnson was born in Carbondale, Pennsylvania in 1845. When he was 16 years old, the American Civil War broke out. Yay! And now Robert was too young to pick up a bayonet fight, but his older brothers got involved fighting for the North. While his brothers were off in a battle, young Robert got into an internship at his uncle's pharmacy in New York. And this is when he started experimenting with something called plaster. Plaster is basically a sticky mixture that starts wet and hardens when you spread it on something. Sounds kind of hot. You can mold it to any surface. It's kind of like paper mache. Yeah, it's like when you make a piñata. Think of it like that. So what the hell is Robert doing with it at a pharmacy? Well, the plaster that Robert is playing with isn't for the workplace piñata. It's actually medical plaster. Oh yeah. It's a special type of plaster which was great for covering cuts and wounds on the body, or even used to apply medicine directly on the wound and keep it there so the wound itself would heal. So plaster would come in very handy during and after the Civil War, because at the time, one of the best ways to stop an infection from spreading to the rest of the body was to amputate.
Texas was waiting and wondering and worrying. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who does everything for you. Who can do your taxes in a day, so you can get up to $4,000 instantly. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
School spirits is the phenomenon that gripped audiences everywhere.
Where's my body? Throw you saw in the world, at least in me.
Wait, does that mean you're not dead?
You're running out of time.
You have no idea what I'm capable of. What other secrets are you keeping?
School spirits. New season streaming January 30th on Paramount Plus.
Cut it off. No arm. Because doctors at the time didn't really understand germs. Remember? We had this conversation before. Germs, they didn't know. What? What's that? Germs? I don't know her. And they don't know how to stop them. So they would just cut people's arms off and stuff. You got a bullet wound stuck in your thigh? Well, sorry. Bad leg. You will be missed. And the doctors were very good at this. So good that they could complete full amputations in under 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes or less, you can get rid of your arm. You know what else takes 3 minutes? Rice and roni. San Francisco treat. You perv. Anyway, people were kind of sick of their only choice being to chop off their limbs. Like, there has to be a better way, right? Right? And this is where young Robert has a light bulb moment. He's like, what if I made a pinata? Just kidding, no pinatas were made. Remember that medicated plaster he's been, like, working with? Well, he was like, hey, this would actually be better than an amputation. And these people could probably keep their limbs and stuff. So Robert heads to New York City as a salesman, pushing his plaster and some other drug products. While in the Big Apple, he meets a pharmacist named George Seabury, and the two of them, I guess they just really hit it off. They're giggling, they're sharing feelings, they're braiding each other's hairs, living, laughing, they're loving. And so the two of them are like, you know what? We are so great at being friends, we should go into business together. So they do. And the year is 1873. You know what they say? You should never go into business with your friends. Actually, I think I heard that once. I don't know if actually I've ever heard that. But you probably shouldn't, right, Joan? I want to go business with you. You're a diva. Oh, shit, I'm in business right now. Oh, fuck. Anyways, I'll tell you. People loved what these guys were selling. So their main product that they were selling was the medicated plasters. And because they were so good at creating these things, it didn't take long for their company named Seabury and Johnson to be known all over the world for their healthcare products. And for 3 years, they were crushing it. Just 3 years. But then, in 1876, everything changed. Okay, so there's this thing that happens. The World's Fair. It rolls into Philadelphia. Now, at this time, the World's Fair, it was the shit. Literally everyone went. I'm talking like millions of people all over the place. I'm talking like 35 different countries would also come in and participate in the fair. It was the best place to show off new inventions, and a lot of things that we still have today actually came from the Philadelphia World Fair. For example, the sewing machine, telephone, the portable bathtub was a thing. I'd use it. Oh, you know who else was there? Popcorn. Popcorn? Remember? I remember. Popcorn made an appearance there. So yeah, the Philadelphia Fair was a huge deal, and like this was the place you wanted to be to share your product. If you were an inventor, oh bitch, you had to go here. Okay? So it was even like the largest gathering of doctors in American history. Johnson and Seabury were like, we gotta go. It's gonna be a great place to network. I mean, there's a bunch of medical supplies there that people are selling. There's a bunch of doctors there. I mean, hello, it's a perfect place to like meet, network, and sell. Is freaking last year. So they go. They're doing it. They're making connections. They're researching. They're hanging out. They're getting popcorn. Johnson hears a talk given by a man named Dr. Joseph Lister. Okay, so this Joseph Lister guy, Lister changed the game when it came to surgery. He was like Jesus. Everyone was telling everyone that surgery should be sterile, you know? Before Lister, people didn't really even care about keeping things clean during surgery. And on top of that, it was said that like doctors didn't even wash their hands after surgery or in between surgeries. They were just raw dogging it. So Lister, he goes on a stage and he told the world that surgeons should be sterilizing their instruments, their hands, and maybe they should even be sterilizing like the skin of the patients. And maybe we should be sterilizing things, is what this Lister guy was saying. And everyone was like, wow, this is groundbreaking information we're hearing. And there was one guy in the crowd who thought, like, yeah, this is definitely the future of medicine. And this guy was Mr. Johnson himself. Side note, Dr. Lister, he's the guy who invented Listerine, the mouthwash. Yeah, wild. But that has nothing to do with Johnson & Johnson. But that's it. Lister, his talk inspires Mr. Johnson because if sterile surgeries were going to sweep the nation, then all those doctors are going to sterile their supplies, right? So Johnson sees an opportunity. The tensions between Johnson and his partner Seabury started to like, they just were bumping heads. Seabury was like, let's stay in our lane and just do the plaster. Johnson was thinking big. He's like, we need to mass produce these sterile supplies. Things started to get ugly. Johnson believed his partner was holding him back. The two can't agree on how to manage their company, so they break up. They go their separate ways. Goodbye. Well, this was actually a blessing in disguise because now Johnson and his two brothers team up and they decided to form their own family company. Oh, that's what they say. You shouldn't do a business with family. Well, this is a bad example. They're huge. Did you tell me that, Joe? I don't believe everything he's saying. Anyways, Robert Johnson gathers his brothers and tells them all about his ideas about medicated plaster and like sterilization. Boring. We're just talking about boring stuff. And he's like, guys, good ideas. They're gonna be huge. And the brothers are like, fuck yeah, you do, bro. Like that was the voice I went with. Nice. So in 1886, the three brothers officially go into business together, and the world was introduced to the amazing, the magical, the fantastic Johnson & Johnson. I have a question. This is one question. Why wasn't that Johnson & Johnson & Johnson? I think we know why. Johnson & Johnson & Johnson.
Okay, wait, hold on. Hurry! Look, I still
feel like we can both get what we want.
So, what's your deal?
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
Mm-hmm. You're not Wolverine. You can still die.
Why?
You know the king.
Oh my god, come on!
Huge Home Alone fans, apparently.
You're so much more than just a landowner. You're a gardener, a groundskeeper, and a landscaper. That's why you need versatile, durable Kubota equipment.
It's too much. The holidays are just around the corner, and finding the perfect gift for your parents, siblings, in-laws, friend, whatever, it's always a challenge, right? I mean, what do you get, like, the people in your life who seem to have everything? You don't want to show up to your holiday dinner with another, like, candle. You want to get them something that's meaningful, from the heart, right? For a really special gift for the special people in your life, you've got to check out Skylight Frame. Skylight Frame is a photo frame you can update instantly by email from anywhere. It's such a great way to feel close to those you love even when you're separated. You can even preload it with photos of special memories for the perfect personalized gift. It's super easy to set up in less than 60 seconds. Just plug in, use the touchscreen to connect your wireless network, and boom shakalaka, enjoy. Sending photos to Skylight is effortless as well. Everyone in the family can use the app or email them to the Skylight, and then they'll pop up in seconds. It has a black frame and white mat, so it looks like a real photo frame that adds a beautiful touch to your home and fits with any aesthetic. Skylight Frame's vibrant touchscreen display lets you swipe through photos and even tap a heart to let the person who sent the photo know you loved it. You can choose from 2 size options. They have the original 10-inch or like the new large 15-inch frame. If you don't love your Skylight, they'll offer you a full refund. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Love that. My sisters live far away from me, so for the holidays, I'm going to get them each a Skylight frame and then upload it with childhood photos of us. Now, as a special offer, you can get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com and enter code HISTORY. That's right, baby. To get $15 off your purchase of the Skylight frame, just go to skylightframe.com and enter code HISTORY. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com and use promo code HISTORY. Now let's get back to the story. So, Johnson & Johnson, they're official. Now, they didn't waste any time. Faster than you could amputate a leg, Johnson & Johnson was getting stuff. And not just like small little stuff either. One of the first things they did was create the world's first mass-produced sterile surgical supplies. They're like, get with that, bitches. Now that was huge. Because guess what? You can now have surgery and not die from an infection. That's all we wanted as people. It's not just that, but since it was mass produced, this meant that everybody could have it. So it wasn't just for the fancy rich people who could afford clean surgery tools. Oh, nay. Boom. Right off the bat, they already changed the world, okay? And honestly, good call from Mr. Johnson, leaving the Seabury guy. You know, yeah, good for you guys doing it. Okay, so growing, and they're like, what else? What other bakers can we come out with? They expanded into ready-to-use surgical plasters and adhesives, aka the Band-Aid. Oh, they are dropping hit after hit. Yeah, that Band-Aid, bitch. That Band-Aid. It was invented by Johnson & Johnson. But again, they're not going to stop there. Oh no. They gotta come out with another one. It's called the First Aid Kit. Okay, so they come out with another banger. It's that First Aid Kit. Okay, now the First Aid Kit is iconic because it's gonna help the railroad workers. So if you watched the Gilded Age episode, or listened to it, I'm sorry, you remember we had mentioned that like everybody was getting hurt on the job. Well, Johnson & Johnson came out here and was like, hey, what if we gave everyone like First Aid Kits so if someone got hurt, they could put a Band-Aid on it. I mean, they were coming out with some groundbreaking things that we could rely on as humans, really, like things that are gonna help us keep us alive. Icons. You know what's funny is a side note about Band-Aid. You always have one Band-Aid box and That's it. You buy one and it lasts forever. You don't even have to buy Band-Aids. They just show up at your house one day. And you're like, how the hell did this kid here? I don't know. Like the other day I needed a Band-Aid because I fell in a bush. If you watch my Instagram story, you saw I fell in a bush. It's a long story. But I scraped up my knee real bad and I just like had a Band-Aid. And I was like, oh, I know where it's at. It's underneath my bed on the left side towards the wall. And guess what, bitch? It was Band-Aids. Like corn. Always there for you. Not sponsored. Anyhow, so they're crushing it. Okay? And they accidentally stumbled upon the product that would be their Jesus. Okay, this is gonna be the product that goes on to be the best-selling product of all time. It would take Johnson & Johnson to the next level and make them that iconic household name. And not only that, it's gonna help them start raking in the cash, baby. And you know what happens when you get more money? More problems. Hey, guess what? The holidays are here. 'Tis the season for holiday candles, colorful lights, and for waiting until the very last minute to buy your family and friends a gift. Every year, I promise myself that I'm gonna start like holiday shopping early, but then all of a sudden it's the middle of December, and I'm panicking, searching the internet, trying to find gifts that will arrive in time for Christmas. I mean, come on, I know I'm not the only one, okay? A lot of people put off shopping until the last minute. Don't judge me. And if you have an online store, you know the feeling of getting hit with a ton of orders at once. Sorry about that, that's probably me. I know many of my listeners out there are business owners and make the coolest products, so I can only imagine how stressful the holiday season is for fulfilling and shipping orders. This time of year is stressful enough, but using ShipStation isn't. If you're still using the default shipping option to run your online store, chances are you're putting up with a lot of unnecessary hassle and limiting your potential growth. With ShipStation, you'll save time, money, and stress during the holiday rush, and it works with all of your favorite places to sell online, including Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, and more. Over 130,000 companies have grown their e-commerce business with ShipStation. And 98% of companies that stick with ShipStation for a year become customers for life. Oh yeah, join companies like Passion Planner, Daily Look, and Wolfgang Puck Home who use ShipStation. This holiday season, give yourself the gift of stress-free holiday shipping. Use promo code DARKHISTORY today at ShipStation.com to sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's ShipStation.com, promo code DARKHISTORY. And now let's get back to the story. So in the 1800s, there is a new mineral discovered. Oh yeah, a mineral called talc. Talc. That's the softest mineral ever found. And because of this, it could be ground into a powder called talcum powder. And pretty soon, it's discovered that this powder had a ton of really good uses. Look, I could sit my fat butt right here and spend the whole episode just listing what talcum powder is in. It's in everything, bitch. It's in mascara, it's in crayons, it's in gum, it's in all of your makeup. Yeah, it's in everything. But again, I'm gonna get to that. Now, people realized that talcum powder was the best at reducing friction and keeping things nice and dry. Kind of like a dry lube. I know it's confusing to think of dry lube, but it prevents friction, hence the lube, but it keeps you nice and dry, hence the dry. It makes sense. Have you ever put it under your boobs? You shouldn't, but like, it absorbs all that sweat, the inner thigh. A lot of guys use it on their balls, which I didn't know until like later in life, and I was like, why do you always have baby powder? I still kind of don't understand how you guys do it. Like, what are you doing exactly? Are they just like smacking their balls with baby powder? Let me know in the comments section. I never really asked further questions. I just know it goes on the balls. Anyways, so this seems like a godsend to Johnson & Johnson because around this time, people had some complaints about their signature product. You know, plasters. The plasters, I guess, could irritate your skin and leave you a little chafy. So Johnson & Johnson had this idea to send this talcum powder out to their customers who were getting Band-Aid rashes. And they were like, use this. It's gonna work miracles. And boy, did it. People at home were like, wow, this worked that well on my rash. It must work on other rashes. Like diaper rash. Oh, yeah. Huge problem. Huge problem. Always a concern. Back then, it was like real bad. They didn't have any answers, you know? turns out that you can actually put talcum powder on a baby's butt, and it proves to be super effective on diaper rash. And the customers were like, holy crap, this is groundbreaking information. Johnson & Johnson, heroes, icons, legends, you know? So, Johnson & Johnson, they're like, holy crap, this is an opportunity for us to make a lot of money. So they decided to start selling talcum powder to the masses under the name Johnson & Johnson's baby powder. And from the word alone, like, this product is a hit. I mean, once women start talking, like, this product is stopping rashes on babies' butts, and it's also preventing them from screaming and crying, I mean, people are using it. This is a godsend, you know? In 1913, Johnson & Johnson had a whole campaign aimed at women using the tagline, best for baby, best for you. And it worked big time. The brand was, it was thriving. It was everywhere.
Hey Lauren, thanks to your excessive use of exclamation marks, Olive Garden's special chicken marsala's back, along with other fan favorites. For limited time only, 4 cheese manicotti, starting at $12.99.
I need women to know that you're not limited to anything other than living your life openly.
It was a staple in the house. Johnson & Johnson's living up to their promise to America to be like family brand, just making people healthier. Lurking around the corner is a whole lot of drama, corruption, destruction, baby. Powder. Turns out the main ingredient out, well, she's been hiding some dirty secrets. If you haven't caught on, the holiday season is around the corner, and with it comes gift giving, lots of great food, and of course, a lot of pictures, right? Like holiday portraits and whatnot. This time of year can get stressful, and when I'm stressed, it immediately shows up on my face. While we can't control other aspects of the holiday, we can make sure you feel confident and camera ready for your photos. That's why I'm always excited to partner with Apostrophe. Whether you're dealing with breakouts, sign of aging, or acne scarring, Apostrophe will help you love the skin you're in. Apostrophe is an online platform that connects you with an expert dermatology team to get customized acne treatment for your unique skin. Through Apostrophe, you can get access to oral and topical medications that use clinically proven ingredients to help clear acne. Now, all you have to do is simply fill out an online consultation about your skin goals and your medical history. Then you're going to snap a few selfies, you know, and a board-certified dermatologist will create your initial customized treatment plan. Apostrophe offers access to prescription treatments for all types of acne, from hormonal acne to facial acne, even back, like your back acne, chest breakouts, and even, you know, butt acne. Like I've mentioned many times before, I personally struggle with acne, and it's always related to stress. I'm currently prescribed Spirlactone, and I take it once a day. It helps calm the hormones and calm my acne. And I have been using Apostrophe for over a year now, and I love the sign-up process. It's so simple. Receiving your prescriptions is very convenient. We have a special deal for my audience. Get your first visit for only $5 at apostrophe.com/darkhistory when you use code DARKHISTORY. That's a savings of $15, baby. This code is only available to my listeners, and all you have to do to get started is just go to apostrophe.com/darkhistory and click Get Started. Then use the code DARKHISTORY at sign up, and you'll get your first visit for only $5. A big thank you to Apostrophe for sponsoring this episode, and now let's get back to the story. So, in order to have all the talc they needed for the baby powder, Johnson & Johnson had to mine it. I just imagine, like, Johnson & Johnson, like the guys, the owners, like, out there mining. Yeah, but they're not doing that. Johnson & Johnson, they end up working with, like, a mining company or two. You see, when you find talc underground, you usually find something called asbestos right along with it. And here's the problem with that. Asbestos causes cancer. Yeah, shit. Asbestos can be found close by, sometimes in the talcum powder. Back in the 1940s and 50s, scientists linked asbestos with lung cancer. So it's like, it's just a risky product, is what I'm getting at. Now, a lot of times when people get cancer, they don't really know the exact cause of it. I mean, it's hard to track down the single source of cancer. There's some exceptions like smoking and asbestos. And since talc was full of asbestos, it was pretty easy to track it back to talc. So Johnson & Johnson uses a bunch of talc in their baby powder, so it was up to them to make sure, like, you know, that there isn't a harmful amount of asbestos in there. Everyone's putting it on their babies. But here's the thing. In the early 1970s, Johnson & Johnson was testing their talc product and found asbestos. And some lab reports even called their levels of asbestos, quote, rather high. But not a big deal at this time because asbestos wasn't illegal, at least, like, not according to the FDA, you know? But then, in 1976, the FDA comes out and says asbestos is bad. And they were going to start telling companies how much they could actually have in their products. So you'd think Johnson & Johnson would tell them about their tests and report their asbestos levels, but of course they didn't. Because why would they do that? Because, like, you know, they're a large corporation. What are they going to do? Be honest? No. They buried those reports. And they just continued business as usual. I mean, like, do you really think a large company is going to do the right thing? You think they're going to be like, oh no, our product has asbestos in it? Guess we have to throw it all away. Like, no. You think they're not going to do it? It's kind of like in school when, like, your teacher would say, like, hey, you can grade your own test. Did anyone give themselves an F? You think Johnson & Johnson's going to give themselves an F? No. They give themselves an A. Okay? They're like, yeah, we don't have it. We removed it all. It's gone. Yeah, the asbestos, she's gone. And the FDA they don't do anything about it. They let this whole thing slide. But even still, Johnson & Johnson buried all of the information about baby powder over being linked to cancer or asbestos. And it wouldn't go public and blow up for like a few more decades. Oh yeah. So after all this, Johnson & Johnson, the company, the big bosses, they were sweating, they were worrying, they were like, holy shit, that was close. Am I right? And this little hiccup didn't, like, stop them, you know, because they continued to dominate the market in the 80s, especially when it came to the everyday products that people were using. And another one of their products that was selling out everywhere, not only the baby powder, right? Tylenol. Shit, yeah, Tylenol. Oh, I love that shit, man. I take it when I got a headache, and then I don't have a headache. It's weird. Okay? Tylenol had been invented by Johnson & Johnson in 1959. Sure was. And it had ads everywhere. Okay? One of their biggest ads was a commercial that described this product as, quote, the most potent pain reliever you can get without a prescription. It was something that's been there for us in our best of times and at our worst of times. And something most of us probably still use today. And Johnson & Johnson knew that. Johnson & Johnson knew that this was a staple in our household. They saw how much people loved them and some Tylenol. And they decided to up the ante. So they came out with a new, amazing product in 1976. What was it, Bailey? Tylenol Extra Strength.
GMC Sierra. It's the truck. Get 0% APR 2024 Sierra 1500 models. That's over $5,600 in average finance savings. Plus, get over $3,200 allowance on this Sierra when you trade in an eligible vehicle.
So I'm hosting my first dinner party, and it's a big adult moment. Being a good host is about letting go of expectations and creating an escape from the rest of the world.
I don't know what to wear.
Wait, what is the dress code? Who am I going to be tonight? This one feels like me. The moment when my friends arrive is the most exciting part because I get to see all the hard work come together. In the end, I don't need
Hit after hit after hit, right? Okay, that's what you say. Well, good things don't last forever, and in 1982, something terrible happened. Something that would cause tens of millions of Americans to empty out their medicine cabinets and swear off Tylenol forever. Oh yeah, talking about the Chicago Tylenol murders. What is this, murder mystery makeup? Almost, but not really. Because it all started in a small town outside Chicago on September 29th, 1982. A 12-year-old girl named Mary told her parents she wasn't feeling too well. Her parents were like, hey, no need to go see a doctor. I got some Tylenol right here in my medicine cabinet. So they gave little Mare a few extra strength Tylenols, and Mary went to sleep. When her parents went to check on her the next morning, guess what? Mary was found in her room dead. Oh yeah. All she had was a common cold, like what? How could this happen? It was a tragedy. What was worse? Nobody had any idea what the hell happened to Mary. Poor Mary. Over the next few days, 6 other people in the Chicago area died under mysterious circumstances, just like Mary. But it wasn't until the FBI got involved that this fact came out. All of them took Tylenol just before their death. And later on, it would be found out that these Tylenol pills, they were actually laced cyanide. Yeah, poison. Okay? Someone was poisoning these people. Someone was aquatifying these people in Chicago. I mean, you're probably wondering how the hell did it get in there? Did Johnson & Johnson know? What did they do? You know? Well, Johnson & Johnson was not going to let this ruin the company. The media already had been reporting all these murders, so Johnson & Johnson couldn't use their money to control the narrative like they had with the baby powder fiasco. But now, people were terrified of Tylenol. So Johnson & Johnson jumps into action and thankfully recalls 31 million bottles of Tylenol, telling people they could turn in their freaking bottles that might have freaking cyanide in it for a new bottle of Tylenol. And most people were like, no, it's okay, like I don't want any more Tylenol, thank you. So the value of the entire company dropped by around $2 billion because of all this. Yes, with a B. $2 billion because people are afraid they're gonna die. Oh, get over it, you losers. That's what they're thinking, Johnson & Johnson. I mean, people were completely just losing faith in the Johnson & Johnson name, which honestly fair, right? So Johnson & Johnson knew that they needed to act fast in order to win their customers back. So they went to the people of America trust the most. The media. Johnson & Johnson was like, excuse me, us? Poison? Who? We would never. So Johnson & Johnson comes out, and they gotta put the blame on somebody, right? And they're like, we don't know how this happened, but we gotta win people back, so what do? They go to the public, and they're like, listen, everybody, this happened because there was a deranged serial killer who did it. That was their reasoning. They just pointed the finger at a deranged serial killer. So essentially, Johnson & Johnson's telling the people, it's some lunatic outside of their company who maybe was lacing the pills with cyanide. You know? I know what you're thinking at home because I was thinking it too. Wouldn't someone notice if their Tylenol bottle was opened and messed with? Well, the answer is no, because safety seals weren't invented yet. So Johnson & Johnson actually takes full advantage of this. They restore everyone's faith by inventing the tamper-proof seal. Oh. Seal, you get it? Oh. Come on, that's funny. I thought of that. Anyways, they come up with the tamper-proof seal. You know, that silver foil paper? It's over the bottle, the top of the bottle. You just have to stab it open with a knife or something because it's childproof. And you're like, I'm not a child, but I can't get any of this open. That thing. So that was invented. It makes people feel safe. It makes consumers feel safe. And to everyday people at home, Johnson & Johnson seemed totally in control of the situation. They handled it well. People felt safe again. And after a rough couple of months, they were back on top. They had spent $100 million in PR and was on their way to getting their good name back. And honestly, that was the best $100 million they could have spent because quickly, Tylenol was, once again, America's #1 pain reliever. It really worked for them. Anyway, bummer end to the story though, because the FBI never found out who put cyanide in those Tylenol bottles. If the killer even existed, right? Although, plot twist, as recently as September of 2022, the case actually got reopened, and they're taking a look at an old suspect. Should I do a murder mystery makeup on this? Let me know, thank you. Anyways, but they never caught anybody, and no one even knows if there was a killer. We'll see. Oh my god, just had an idea. I just had a light bulb moment. Okay, because recently in September of 2022, this was reopened, right? Didn't Johnson & Johnson just have a big lawsuit happen? What if they're reopening it as a distraction? Because they're going through another lawsuit currently. They've been going through lawsuits. I'm gonna get murdered by Johnson & Johnson. Or Nestle. Or Coke. Or the Banana Republic people. I'm on everyone's hit list. So this won't be the last time Johnson & Johnson was put under the microscope after someone died in products. And this time, the people who were affected, Grandma and Grandpa. Not Grandma. the Americas. What do you think? Well, the holiday season is officially here, baby. That means busting out the holiday candles, putting up lights, playing holiday music all day long. But this time of year also means, busy schedules. As your calendar starts to fill up this season, you can count on HelloFresh to get you some of your free time back by making cooking simple and quick. Each recipe and its pre-portioned ingredients arrive right to your door, so you can skip the grocery store and all of that prep. I'm a homebody, okay? So going to the store, being out with the humans, walking up and down the aisles looking for ingredients, it's overwhelming. It's not my jam. So I love that all the ingredients I need just show up right to my doorstep. And with over 35 weekly recipes, there are meals for everyone. You can also easily customize your recipes by swapping proteins or sides, upgrading to choice proteins, or even adding protein to like a veggie meal. I have really liked all the meals I have made from HelloFresh, but my absolute favorite meal has been the beef bulgogi bowl. You mentioned it every time because it's so freaking good. They give you recipe cards as well, and it's like has pictures on it. I'm a very visual person, so you know like step by step how to make the recipe. You don't have to be a professional chef to make a delicious meal with HelloFresh. If you want to try America's #1 meal kit, go to hellofresh.com/darkhistory65 and use code darkhistory65 for 65% off plus free shipping. That's hellofresh.com/darkhistory65 and use code darkhistory65 for 65% off plus free shipping. Now let's get back to today's story. So I think in order to understand this next part of Johnson & Johnson's journey, we need to talk about a woman named Jessie. In 1996, a 96-year-old fell and broke her hip. Despite her age, Jessie was still with it. And even though she had begun showing signs of early dementia, her son was like, she's in great shape, she's doing so well. Anyways, after the fall, Jessie was taken to a nursing home in Austin, Texas, and things just took a turn for the worse. Even though her hip felt, her hip feeling better, but Jessie was acting really, really strange. Suddenly, she could no longer speak. She couldn't even move. And her son was saying, like, mentally, she was totally out of it. And no one knew what was going on. So they asked Jessie's doctor. Now, the doctor explained that it could be some kind of normal side effect from some of the drugs that she was taking. Well, unfortunately, things never got better. Shortly after, Jessie passed away from dementia, leaving her family devastated and wanting answers now more than ever. So her son asked the doctor again, what medicine were you giving my mother? And he told her that he was giving her a drug called Risperdal. And when Jessie's son looked into the medication, he was like, what? Because Risperdal says right on the package, do not give this to people with dementia. This was an antipsychotic drug used for people with severe mental issues. To Jessie's son, this wasn't making sense because she had no mental issues. But if this drug is sounding familiar to you, that's because there were allegations that Britney Spears' manager was grinding this drug up and sneaking it into her food to keep her quiet. I just had to throw that in there. Pretty hardcore. So when given to the wrong patients, the medication can cause people to just turn into vegetables and just not be in control of themselves anymore. Some patients may even suffer difficulty breathing and swallowing, and it can even cause heart attacks, like the symptoms Jessie was showing. I mean, this was a serious drug only intended for patients who really needed it. So why the hell was the doctor prescribing it to someone who slipped and fell? I don't know. Well, actually, we all know why. For money. Thank you. Drop your stuff. Oh, it's fucking money.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself. It's the difference between being creative and being a creator. Between a homemade recipe and a household name. Between a daydream and a dream job. It's your business, your hard work. You do it yourself. Create your website on Wix.
What are we going to do about that? We need to start brainstorming. Risperdal was a Johnson & Johnson drug, and some bad apples at Johnson & Johnson had a deal with some people at a pharmaceutical company called like Omnicare. Pretty much the easiest way to explain it is like the more Risperdal they would give to older patients, the more money would go straight to the doctor's pockets. So they were getting kickbacks for pushing this drug onto people who didn't even need it. Prescribing this medicine went on for years in the 90s and 2000s, and this turned out to be one of the largest healthcare fraud schemes this country has ever seen. Oh yeah. It's very similar to what's going on with like the opiate crisis, where a lot of doctors were just pushing it because they were making money off of the drug itself. Does that make sense? I hope so. This is what companies like Johnson & Johnson are capable of. They can't target people who can't stand up for themselves. I think the saddest part about this is that people tend not to ask questions when it has to do with our senior citizens, you know? Plus, it's like, maybe you just don't know any better. They just like take lots of drugs. Okay, so the guilty Johnson & Johnson executives went to prisons for their part in that scandal, right? Of course not. Of course not! Of course not. But they did have to pay up, which I guess does something. The federal government had been on to Johnson & Johnson for years. They always seem to get away with getting any lawsuits, but this time there was tons of evidence. Poisonings, paper trails, payoffs. Using evidence they found, the FBI ended up building like a case against the company. It showed that Johnson & Johnson's company, they had another name to it, a secret company, was paying doctors to prescribe unapproved drugs to treat the elderly and even kids. Yeah, so Johnson & Johnson made a fake company, and under the secret company is where, well, I don't think it was fake, because it was a company. They were pushing drugs on people. It's a fucking mess. Okay, so the elderly and kids all over the country being put on drugs they shouldn't have been, just so some people could make some money. The evidence was so strong that in 2013, Johnson & Johnson, they just admitted guilt. They're like, yeah, we did that shit. Sorry about it. Not only that, Johnson & Johnson ended up having to pay over like $2 billion in settlements. If you guys listen to my screen, I'm going to put these.
My fucking screen is black except for the top half an inch. So I cannot see anything. Hour to get on live. Just punching numbers on a black screen, including a pencil. Muscle memory for you. Garage, I don't want to do it in the garage. Dry and crack.
Or you go to Walmart and you can find betas everywhere. They're in little cups and they're just suffering. And I hate that. And I feel like unless you're in a fish club or you have hundreds of friends that are going to take these beta, or you have a lot of tanks yourself and you can house them, I don't feel like it's right. I'd like to give you an example. If you have 2 cats and you decided you wanted to have kittens, would you breed these cats just so that you could have kittens? Or would you go to a shelter and adopt a kitten? To me, that would be the right thing to do. Now, not everybody agrees with my opinion, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this. And I definitely do not mean any disrespect to people that do breed betas. I just want people to be aware. It's more than just a little fish. It's a life. So if you're going to breed beta, please be prepared to hold them.
Do you have a great idea for a topic for a 10 Things episode in the future? If you do, put it down in the comment section below. And if we use your topic, we'll give you credit for the video.
To show you the different types of beta fish that there are out there, we decided to turn to JapaneseFightingFish.org, and we put together a slideshow for you. So here goes. JapaneseFightingFish.org is a wonderful site. So if you want to learn more about your beta fish, or if you're thinking about getting a beta fish, then you should go check them out. They're a great site.
When it comes to bagging great prices on the brands they both love, one trip to Petco goes a long way.
Betas aren't authentic. picky about what you put in the tank with them. But the first thing that I want to say about decorations is think about the size of the tank that you're putting the decorations in. If you have a 3-gallon aquarium and you put a giant pirate ship in there, you're not leaving very much room in the tank for the fish to swim around. I'm not preaching to you here. I'm just saying. Betas do well with pretty much anything you want to put in the tank with them, from live plants to fake plants to rocks and statues. These are fragile little fish though, so try to stay away from decorations that have a lot of sharp edges and stuff like that on them. You don't want to get their gorgeous fins all sliced up. As far as substrate goes, there really are no rules when it comes to betas. I've seen people use everything from bare bottom tanks to sand, brightly colored gravel, or even those fake rubies and crystals and stuff that you're in that.
Unfortunately, there are people out there that look at betas as decorations. And if they end up dying, they just say, they don't live that long anyway. And you know what? That's not true. A well-cared for beta can live anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And I've heard of some living even longer if they're taken good care of. If your beta decoration dies, it's not because they have a short lifespan. It's because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You did not do your job. There's a misconception out there that betas like dirty water because they originate from mud puddles. I'm telling you, whoever started that is just stupid. A beta aquarium should be taken care of just like any other aquarium should. You need to do your water changes and keep up with filter maintenance. Do you want to live in a dirty house? Do you want to live in a funky, dirty, smoky closet? No. So why does your beta want to live in a mud puddle or a dirty tank? Do your job and let your beta live to its fullest potential. Feeding your beta is the easiest thing in the world. You have so many choices. Every fish brand out there has a beta formula. Betas are carnivores, which means they like food high in protein. And there are several out there that you can choose from. The first would be live foods. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because there are a lot of other options out there. And unless you're breeding betas, then you really don't have to feed live foods. Some of the more common live foods would be things like vinegar eels and baby brine shrimp. These are live foods that you can culture yourself, and they're super nutritious for your fish. But again, unless you're looking into breeding betas, you probably don't want to mess with it. I would say the easiest way to give your beta everything that they need is to just feed them a pellet or frozen foods. Frozen foods like bloodworms and brine shrimp are awesome for your beta, and they'll definitely tear it up. But if you only have one beta and one cube, you're probably going to waste a lot of that food. Right now, between John and I, we have 7 betas in 7 different tanks. So we just thaw out 1 cube and it feeds all 7 betas. And then we get to pellets. Pellets are by far the easiest way to feed your fish without wasting a bunch of food. And the great thing about pellets is there's everything that you need in a pellet for your beta. My betas absolutely love Flugal bug bites. I feed them 4 pellets a day and they go crazy over it. I'm not saying that because I think it's the best food out there for your fish. It's just what works for me and my fish love it.
Here's the thing, doing a segment on fish that are compatible with betas can be a bit controversial. But then again, I guess doing any fish tank mate videos can ruffle some feathers out there. You're always going to have people that are going to say, you can't do that, or it's irresponsible for you to tell people that you can put those 2 fish together. So let's just keep things simple and go with some guidelines for you to think about when you're selecting tank mates for your betas. And I'll give you some examples of fish that we've successfully kept with. Keep in mind that betas are also called Siamese fighting fish, or Japanese fighting fish, depending on where you look. They're called this for a reason. So understand, if you put 2 betas together, you're asking for it. They will fight. There's no stopping them. The next thing to think about is betas typically like to stay up around the top of the tank. So bottom feeders like Corydoras and Sisters, they're going to be fine. The biggest thing that stands out with betas is their fins. They're absolutely gorgeous, and that's what they're known for. So you're definitely going to want to stay away from fish that have the reputation of being fin nippers. Tiger barbs are a great example of this. They might not kill your beta, but they're going to tear it up real good. We've kept betas with Corydoras, guppies, neon tetras, rasboras, flatties, bristlenose catfish, you name it. We've had a lot of different types of fish with betas. Just be careful. Do your research before you buy the fish.
There's a huge misconception about beta. So
I want to say Tim. I'm Jack Black. Oh, that's it. I'm not Jack Black.
Oliver, this is
Betta fish are colorful jewels in the fish-keeping world. People have been keeping and breeding bettas for hundreds of years for their dazzling beauty and lively personality. Here are some interesting facts about the betta fish. The word betta is a genus name and refers to over 70 different types or species of fish. Betta splendens are the most common and are what we typically see when we go to the pet store. Bettas are known to be highly intelligent and alert to their surroundings, and can even be taught tricks using food as a reward. It has been noted that bettas also have the ability to recognize their caretaker over time. You may have heard that bettas can live in tiny tanks because they just come from puddles in nature, but this isn't entirely true. This comes from the fact that bettas originate from areas in Southeast Asia that periodically experience drought. Much of the water dries up, leaving only puddles behind, which allow the fish to survive until a storm comes and floods the area again. But these fish only truly thrive in much larger, wider bodies of water. Due to the fact that their natural environment dries periodically, betta fish have adapted and developed the ability to breathe oxygen directly from the air using a special organ called a labyrinth or breathing organ. Males build bubble nests with their mouth to hold eggs which hatch after a few days. The male betta then diligently protects the baby fish until they are old enough to be free swimming. It has been observed that domesticated betta fish are more aggressive than their wild counterparts, likely due to the fact that ornamental bettas were bred to be fighting fish as a sport. Wild bettas also tend to have much duller colors than the domestic betta fish. In their natural environment, bettas are carnivores, primarily feeding on insects. In captivity, they will typically take a variety of foods and even benefit from the addition of some plant material in their diet, as it contains beneficial fiber and nutrients. Veiltail, crowntail, and half-billy are all fairly common tail types, but there are dozens more available on the market in different shapes and sizes. Additionally, red, blue, and black are common betta color varieties, but there are also many more, like metallic copper or marble. The options are limitless. Bettas are commonly recommended as a beginner fish and can be great for new fish keepers getting into the hobby. However, bettas do have their challenges. These fish require at least 5 gallons of water, temperatures of about 76 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit, clean and filtered water, proper decor, and a balanced diet in order to thrive. A lot of fish shoal together and travel in schools, but the betta prefers to be a lone wolf. Betta fish do well in an aquarium of their own, as they have the potential to be aggressive to other fish. They flare their fins when they feel their territory has been threatened. We still have a lot to learn about betta fish. We can always appreciate the elegance and personality that these incredible fish bring to our world.
Shop Etsy for affordable decor designed to give your home a fresh feel. Find the pieces you need to get your space ready for anything, like cozy throws under.
Everybody loves betta fish. We all know that. Because who would deny that every time this fish swims around your aquarium, you'll show emotions like this in front of them? It's okay, fish keepers, because I do it too. And I won't deny it because these betta fish truly have incredible features. Not only are they fascinating, but there's also some facts about them that would add to your amazement. In our last video, we discussed the 50 facts about goldfish, which you can watch on the thumbnail above. Today, we'll give the betta fish its highlight regarding their amazing facts. If you want to gain more knowledge like I do, you better stay with me till the end of this video, because Aquarium Store Depot is here again to help you be your best in this hobby. Any new fish or animal should be thoroughly researched before being purchased. This is remarkably accurate when discussing betta fish. Sadly, there's some false information about betta fish in aquariums. Betta fish, or Siamese fighting fish, are considered a beginner fish. Thus, many new hobbyists rely on their neighborhood pet stores to provide them with all the knowledge they need to start aquariums. Although some store employees provide reliable information, conducting your research and learning facts about them is still advisable. You know what they say, never buy a pet without understanding its upkeep needs. That's why to learn more about the Betta, let's finally dive into the 50 incredible facts about them. Starting with our number 1 fact, every Betta has their unique personality. Betta fish are all unique. Some fish are curious and amiable, while others are sluggish and hostile. Until your Betta fish feels at home in its new environment, it's impossible to predict what type of personality it will have. Remember that a fish's nature may alter depending on the parameters of the water, tank size, and tank mates. Number 2, Betta fish were selectively bred for competition. Royalty nurtured these fish for their most excellent hues, tail forms, and ferocity around 1,000 years ago. They were also bred to fight where locals wagered money in competitive fights through selective breeding. Later, these fish came to represent extreme finnage, coloration, and beauty. Number 3, these Betta fish rule Thailand. Because of how much people adore them, these fish have been designated as Thailand's national fish. Some Betta fish have been bred to have stripes that mimic Thailand's national flag in red, white, and blue. Number 4, Betta are as colorful as the rainbow. That's right, fish keepers, Betta fish are genuinely colorful. Red, blue, green, and black are examples of their colors. The most prevalent hues in nature are generally blue and red. The genetic capabilities of these fish are still being pushed by Betta fans. Though, and as a consequence, some incredible colors and patterns have been produced. A few common occurrences, such as the half moon, double tail, and crown tail, result from possible finnage exploration. Number 5. If you ever have seen a true albino white, you're lucky, because that's the rarest color in Betta. Purple is the most uncommon hue. A true purple Betta, however, has yet to be created. Instead, they typically have a purple tint. Albinism, on the other hand, is an uncommon genetic abnormality that inhibits the generation of melanin. The result is a white fish with red eyes, as there is either no melanin or significantly less melanin. Number 6. 5 gallons is the typical recommended minimal size. Although some hobbyists have had luck keeping them in 3-gallon tanks, we wouldn't personally advise it. A 5-gallon tank, on the other hand, provides plenty of space for a Betta fish to exhibit its natural skills without becoming bored or anxious. This tank size could also be suitable for keeping a few snails around. Number 7. The Betta fish needs a constant water temperature in a world of changes. Although Betta fish are tough, they require water between 78 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Some hobbyists maintain this temperature in their Betta tanks by a small margin, but consistency is more critical than precision. It's usually advised to use an aquarium heater to maintain a steady temperature. Number 8. These fish are territorial and will fight each other. Betta fish will battle to the death amongst themselves, and with similar-looking fish in a closed environment like an aquarium. Although wild Betta fish are inherently territorial, they've been carefully engineered to exhibit the most aggressive tendencies. Betta fish are hostile to other fish that try to steal their resources, such as food, space, and even possible mates. Since there's not much room in the tank, many fish can be seen as a threat to Betta fish. Number 9. Betta look cute, but when they flare their gills and fins, they look more massive than ever. Betta fish flare their gills and fins to seem larger and more intimidating than they really are. This happens when they're irritated or they feel threatened. If not necessary, this might cause the fish a lot of stress. However, some Betta fish owners will purposely cause their Betta fish to flare to stimulate and enrich them. Once more, it would help if you only did this occasionally to protect your fish from added stress. Number 10. In the hobby, there are almost 73 species of Betta. The Betta genus has a wide variety of fish. Several others in the Betta genus have begun to enter domestic aquariums. However, many are still unavailable to purchase. Until then, Betta splendens continue to be the most well-liked and well-known species.
A short time ago, in a land far away, a bag was born, named for a literal princess.
Number 11. Thailand is the hometown of these incredible fish. That's right, Siam was the previous name for Thailand, which explains the other name of the Betta fish. Their second popular name, the Siamese fighting fish, came about as a result of this, as well as their aggressive disposition. Number 12. Betta fish can also be seen in different countries across Southeast Asia. Despite having their origins in Thailand, several wild species of betta may be found in Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, among other nations in Southeast Asia. Number 13. Did you know that there are betta splendens outside of their typical environment? Betta splendens were once restricted to Southeast Asia. They were later found in Australia, North America, and South America. Fish that were discharged from local hobbyists and breeding farms may have been the cause of this. Number 14. Little to no water movement in the tank is best for betta fish. In actuality, betta fish thrive in still waters. These fish are found in shallow, relatively slow-moving waters in the wild. They've been developed in captivity to have decorative finish, which can make it challenging for them to swimming in strong water currents. Number 15. A high-quality creature like betta requires high-quality water as well. Betta fish, however resilient, need water with minimal nitrates, 0 ppm nitrite, and 0 ppm ammonia. Betta fish require continuous water parameters within their desired ranges and a stable water temperature. Bettas are super prone to ammonia and nitrite poisoning, much like other fish, if toxins are allowed to build up in the tank. Before continuing with our list, if you've learned something so far, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our official YouTube channel, where many videos about aquatic topics and aquarium maintenance are uploaded. Going back to our list, a betta fish does best in a planted aquarium. Although it may be kept in most aquarium layouts, this fish species shines best in a planted tank that mimics its native environment. This contains containers with natural plants, fake plants, or other decorations in sand and gravel substrate. Number 17. Betta aren't big fans of live plants. One of the most fantastic fish for a live plant setup is bettas, since betta fish are naturally carnivorous and will not be attracted to any living plants in the tank, so they generally leave them alone. However, some betta fish have been observed picking at plants, and others have been observed nipping at exposed plant roots. Number 18. In very shallow water, a betta fish can be found. Betta fish are typically found in shallow transient ponds and rice fields in the wild. Betta's habitats are heavily influenced by the wet and dry seasons, when torrential rain flood ditches and forest floors. They can endure such extreme circumstances because of their labyrinth organ and skillful jumping. Number 19. Did you know the IUCN Red List of threatened species includes betta fish? Regrettably, some betta species are designated as threatened on the IUCN Red List of species. Betta pinguis, Betta pardalos, Betta simplex, and Betta chanoides are a few of the species. Deforestation, habit loss, and pollution are a few reasons these things are on the list. Number 20. There's a betta species that mimics the looks of a snake. The snakehead betta, though not among the more popular betta fish, resembles a snake. These fish have a long, tapered body and a head shape that's more reptilian than fish. But don't be concerned. They're no more difficult to maintain or more harmful than other bettas. Number 21. You would never believe that female bettas can be just as aggressive. Female betta fish are said to be less aggressive than their male counterparts, but some female betta fish may be more aggressive, so this is a broad generalization. This is why keeping betta fish alone in their aquarium is still advised to most beginners. Number 22. Male betta had the rainbow in them. Betta fish may easily be distinguished as male or female. The most significant distinction is that males' fins are significantly more extensive and of much more color than females. They frequently have flowier tails and fins that can be utilized to frighten predators and attract females. Number 23. Betta fish do not exceed 3 inches in length. Betta fish often are at most 3 inches in length at mature size. On the other hand, some betta fish have very spectacular finnage that may add an additional 1 to 2 inches to their body length. Number 24. Though betta don't often exceed 3 inches, the largest species can reach lengths of 7. The gigantic betta, which may reach lengths of 7 inches, is the largest species of betta fish. Compared to their smaller relatives, these fish should be allowed more space. For one gigantic betta, a tank size of 10 gallons is often advised. Number 25. In a community tank, betta fish may coexist with different fish species. This can only be the case if personalities mesh. Some betta fish are too hostile to be housed in tanks with other fish. However, more amenable and accommodating breeds may be maintained with various tetras, rasporas, and even bigger fish. Number 26. Although most female bettas are known to be combative, some can be kept together. Not everyone can successfully keep a betta sorority, but some enthusiasts have done this. A big tank, females reared together, lots of natural hiding places, and barriers that break the line of sight are all essentials for a successful sorority. Number 27. Selective breeding increased the aggression of bettas. Betta fish were first developed in their vivid colors, but were also bred to be quite aggressive. After that, they would engage in competitive combat with one another. This aggression is still present today in some breeds. It is believed that wild bettas are less aggressive in nature. Number 28. Betta fish in the wild are far less colorful than those in aquariums. Similar to this, cultivated bettas from breeding farms are considerably more colorful. This is because they've been carefully grown to exhibit the most intriguing and vibrant hues imaginable. Even today, betta fish breeders research and play with genetics to create the most fabulous colors and combinations. Number 29. The care of the fry is the responsibility of the male betta fish. Yep, that's right. Male bettas are the house husband in the hobby. Betta fish females are alone in charge of preparing the eggs for fertilization. Males build the nest, fertilize the eggs, lay them there, and guard them against predators until they hatch. Number 30. At the surface of the water, male betta fish build bubble nests. Male betta fish blow bubbles at the water surface to form bubble mats using their labyrinth organ. These are ready nests that, when attached to a female, will hold fertilized eggs. The male will capture and drop the fertilized eggs into the bubble nest. Even without a mate, males will still build nests when establishing territories to attract one. Number 31. Male bettas have been known to build bubble nests outside their reproductive cycles. However, a bubble nest is not a reliable sign that your male betta is preparing for mating. Excessive bubble nests.
Betta fish are colorful.
My best friend wanted to set up a betta tank for her kids, but she's terrified of doing anything wrong and accidentally killing their first family pet. So, luckily, she has me at her beck and call, so I'm going to share with you guys the step-by-step process I use to help set her up for success. Step 1, let's go shopping. So first of all, let's get the aquarium. It depends on if you want to keep the betta fish by itself, because they are kind of territorial and semi-aggressive. I would go for a 5-gallon tank versus if you want to try to keep the betta with tank mates. We have a whole video over here on what tank mates would be maybe suitable for your betta. It's going to depend. Some are just going to be aggressive no matter what, but if you have a pretty chill one, you can try it. But in that case, if you're adding additional fish, you're going to want at least a 10 or 20-gallon aquarium. A lot of new time fish keepers like to get aquarium kits. So all I would say is just make sure the kit has a lid and a light with it. A lid is definitely necessary because betta fish do like to jump. And then I don't usually use the default filter that comes with these kits because almost always they're way too strong for the betta fish. It's going to get whipped around in the aquarium, it's going to stress it out, and a lot of times they end up developing fin rot or other health issues because of the strong current. Now, depending on where you want to put the aquarium, which we'll talk about the importance of location in a second, you may or may not need a tank stand. For example, some people like to put their aquarium on the kitchen counter. However, if it's going to be a standalone setup, you'll want an aquarium stand that can hold up the weight of an aquarium. It's actually rather heavy when you add all that water. So for a 5-gallon tank, I just multiply by 10. It needs to be able to handle about 50 pounds of weight, if not more. Most of the times I just go to the pet store and I buy an aquarium stand that's rated for the size of tank that I'm going to get. My favorite filter for a betta fish would be a sponge filter. They're super gentle with their flow. It's not going to catch its fins or rip them up or anything like that. And so a sponge filter, you'll also have to get some air accessories with it. So it's going to have an air pump that drives it, airline tubing to connect it. I like to have a check valve so it won't accidentally flood when the power goes off, as well as a air stone to put inside of the sponge filter, making the bubbles a little bit smaller and less noisy. Betta fish are tropical fish, so they like to be around 78 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't keep your house that warm, then I would highly recommend that you get an aquarium heater. For a 5-gallon tank, I usually like to go with 25 watts. If you keep your house really, really cold, maybe 50 watts, and then scale it up depending on the size of your aquarium. I'll put a link down below on what size heater to get depending on the size of your aquarium. Now let's get to the fun part. decorating. So for the bottom of the aquarium, I like to use 5 pounds of gravel, rounded edges only, in a 5-gallon aquarium. We do sell a bioactive gravel on our website that will not only look really good, it's black, so it really, I feel like, emphasizes the colors of the betta fish, but also it helps to speed up the cycling or seasoning process of your aquarium, which I'll talk about in a second. I always recommend that people add aquarium plants, live aquarium plants, because they're so amazing. Not only are they beautiful, natural looking, but also they have the amazing ability to absorb the toxic nitrogen waste that your fish produces when they go to the bathroom. So it helps purify the water, very pretty to look at. Just go with some kind of beginner-friendly, really easy plant like Anubias, Java Fern, even Marimo mossballs if they're back on the market. Those plants, they don't require any kind of special substrate. They only need low light, and then you just need some easy green all-in-one fertilizer to feed them and keep them happy. If you're not ready to get started on aquarium plants though, but you still want those amazing benefits, Google what kind of house plants you can put in aquariums. My favorite is pothos. You just kind of clip off a little stem, stick it in the water, and it starts growing roots, and also, again, starts purifying the water for you. As for aquarium decorations, make sure not to get anything with any kind of sharp edges or holes that are way too small for the betta, but he thinks he can fit in them. They like to explore everywhere, and you would be surprised at the number of pictures I've seen of betta fish that got caught in their decorations. I personally like the floating betta log just because it has nice big holes in it, it floats up the surface, and you can actually train it to feed from that log by dropping food through the little portals in it. Very fun. My favorite betta fish foods to recommend would be definitely get a high quality floating betta pellet, one that's smaller in diameter, not too big, because then you'll see them like try to swallow it and then spit it out, swallow it, spit it out. Definitely go for a freeze-dried food like freeze-dried bloodworms, freeze-dried Daphnia. Those are all good choices. And then if you're feeling a little adventurous, go to your local fish store and get some frozen foods for them. They're gonna absolutely love it. It's my favorite way to spoil them. The key is to offer some kind of variety of fish foods, because I definitely had a case where I only gave betta pellets to my friend to start with, and then her betta actually ended up developing nutrient deficiencies because that was the only thing he was eating day in and day out. So just like you don't want to eat hamburgers every day, your betta doesn't want to either. I personally don't usually feed fish flakes because I've had some betta fish that aren't the best hunters, and so they can't easily find the flakes sometimes, and then it ends up dissolving, sinking to the ground, they never find it, and then the fish tank kind of gets unheated. Finally, let's talk about supplies that every fish tank needs, not just betta fish tanks. Most people, their tap water has chlorine or chloramine in it, which is not good for fish, and you're going to want to get some kind of water conditioner or dechlorinator to basically detoxify those chemicals. And then I always recommend getting some kind of starter bacteria. If this is, again, your first fish tank, and we'll talk about cycling in a second, you really want to introduce some beneficial bacteria into the aquarium because, like the plants, they're essential for helping to purify the water, because every time your fish goes to the restroom, it's releasing toxic ammonia in there, and you don't want the fish to get sick with it. The one thing I wish I had known as a first-time betta keeper was get an aquarium siphon. This thing is such a time saver. Instead of having to, I hope you're not doing this, but carry the whole tank to the sink, dump out all the water, take out all the decorations, clean it, and then put everything back. Like, no. The aquarium siphon is basically this small little hose that you use to siphon water or suck water out into a bucket. So you also need a bucket to get that dirty water, and then once you pour the dirty water out, you use the bucket to get clean water and then pour it back into the tank. So definitely get an aquarium siphon. I will link right here how to use one. Very, very simple. Most people don't think to get ammonia and multi test strips, but anytime you're not sure why your fish is acting weird or maybe getting sick, you want to immediately do water tests to find out, is there something in the water that is poisoning them? It's also a good way to tell, like, when should I clean my tank? Sometimes the toxic ammonia I talked about, it's invisible, it's clear, it's in the water, so you can't see it visibly with your eye, and yet it could be harming your fish. Plus, it's another good way to tell when your plants need fertilizer. So a lot of good things come up by having these water test kits, and I would definitely recommend them, just so that, when your fish aren't feeling well, you'll have some way of kind of diagnosing what's going on. Speaking of sick fish, I personally gave my friend some kind of a first aid kit of medications for benefish because I already have medication stashed. So I did a couple packets of Maricin, which is an antibiotic, a couple packets of Paraclins, which treats internal parasites, and then I personally have on hand Icanex, which treats fungus and external parasites. Medications can be kind of expensive, so I would definitely budget it. If you can't get it right now, another alternative would be regular salt. So aquarium salt, rock salt, is made of sodium chloride. That is kind of a good first line of defense, but the better option would be the actual medications to treat the actual diseases, if you can. Is your wallet feeling a little lighter now? Well, I have good news. We're going to go on to step 2, finally. So location. Very important on where you put the tank or the tank stand. Ideally, you want your tank near some kind of electrical outlet or somewhere where at least you can kind of put a power strip to, because we've got several pieces of equipment that we need power for, as well as hopefully near the water source. As close as you can be, it'll make your water changes a little bit easier. I personally like to make sure that my tank is not in direct sunlight. Indirect is fine, but direct sunlight, it can affect the temperature of the tank as well as probably grow a lot of algae. Nobody likes that. And then speaking of temperature, I also don't want my tank right next to like the air conditioning or heating vents, because especially if it's a smaller tank, like 5 gallons, that can affect the temperature pretty quickly. And then final tip is, let's put it somewhere where the tank is not going to get bumped into a lot. So not like a busy hallway where kids and dogs are constantly racing back and forth. We want to put it somewhere safe so that our fish won't get hurt. Step 3. All right, you got all your stuff. Let's rinse it with warm water really quickly. You definitely don't want to use any soap. That will harm your fish, especially if you don't get it completely off. So we're just going to rinse it with water just to make sure dust or stuff that kind of settled on it while it was in the fish store gets rinsed out. So your tank, your substrate, your decorations, equipment, all of that. And then bonus, if you want to be extra special, I like to do, before I install anything, I like to fill the tank up with water and then have it sit for 24 hours to do a leak test, just to make sure there's no tiny little cracks or areas that I'm having problems with, because then if I do see something, hopefully you bought it from a local pet store or fish store, and you can easily return the tank and get a new one. Step 4, let's start putting stuff into the aquarium. So what I'm going to do is, you want to put your heater and your filter in the tank. Do not plug them in yet, we're just doing the interior decorating right now. So you're going to position them in an area where you think they won't be as obvious, and then you're going to place the decorations and plants in front of them to kind of hide them from view. Now, if you did purchase plants like Anubias and Java Fern that kind of have a thick horizontal rhizome, you do not want to bury that rhizome into the substrate or into the gravel. That's kind of a mistake that a lot of people don't know about, but these plants actually do not need substrate at all. So instead, you can stuff it into the cracks and crevices of decorations, or if you have super glue or super glue gel, you can glue them to little rocks, and that will kind of help weigh them down. Again, make sure the rocks are safe for your aquarium, and then do not smother that rhizome entirely with glue, or it will suffocate and not do well for you. Step 5, time to add in the water. So you're going to pour in the tap water, add the appropriate number of squirts of dechlorinator, so it will detoxify the chlorine and other toxic chemicals that are in there. And then usually for the heater, the instructions say wait 30 minutes for the heater to temperature acclimate before you can plug it in. So then you can plug in the heater, plug in the filter, and then make sure those power cords have a drip loop. Again, there's usually instructions in your manual to make sure that water doesn't flow down the cable and then accidentally flow into the power outlet. Now at this point, the tank is not ready for fish yet, so we actually need to do what is called cycling or seasoning an aquarium, where we want to grow the plants and grow the beneficial bacteria so that there's enough biological filtration in this tank for your fish to live in without being immediately poisoned by its own ammonia it produces when it goes to the restroom. So we have a whole video over here on how to cycle your aquarium, but make sure to do that first. And then step 6, it is finally the day to add your new benefish. So I like to dose a little bit more of the starter bacteria on the day I'm going to add new fish. I personally like to use Fritz Sign 7. It's really great. Once you get your fish, you're going to put him in, when he's in the bag or in the container, you're going to float that container in the tank water so that the temperature inside his container and the temperature in the tank water is the same before you dump them in. So it's called temperature acclimation. We don't want to shock them. After the 20 minutes, you want to drain out all of that fish water that came from the fish store and then just only put the fish into the tank. Usually I like to feed very, very lightly, especially the first week. You know, most fish, if they're healthy and strong, they can go like a week or two without any feedings at all. But the reason why I feed him lightly is because every time he goes to the restroom, it's creating more of that toxic ammonia and nitrogen waste, and I just want to make sure that the beneficial bacteria and the plants can keep up with that bioload. If you do see that the water gets really cloudy and milky, it may be a bacterial bloom because the beneficial bacteria is like, wow, there's a lot more waste than we can handle. We need to multiply. And so that's what they're doing. I wouldn't worry about it. You don't need to do an immediate water change. What I would do is maybe fast my fish for a few days. Don't feed them. Don't add any more organics basically into the tank. And then add some more, for instance, Zyme-7 or starter bacteria if you need to. Many times at Aquarium Talk, we like to recommend that you prophylactically treat your new fish, all new fish, with our quarantine medication trio, with the antibiotics, the anti-parasitic and antifungal medications, just to make sure they're completely clean. However, with betta fish, they actually usually grow up in isolation because they are so territorial toward each other. So most likely, he's not going to have any transmitted diseases, but hopefully you have that first aid kit ready in case you do observe any symptoms with your fish. All right, now that we've got the tank set up, the fish is in there, now it's time to have our regular routine of feeding the fish, regularly cleaning the tank. So for more details, check out our Better Fish Care Guide over here for next steps.
Olay is changing my shower game with 5 skincare benefits. Olay Super Serum Body Wash. Donate plasma today and receive up to $700 your first month. CSL Plasma. Do the amazing.
Everybody loves betta fish. We all know that. Because who would deny that every time this fish swims around your aquarium, you'll show emotions like this in front of them? It's okay, fish keepers.
Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in this video we're going to be talking about a really popular fish, and that is the betta. We have been keeping them in our fish room for decades, and they are super cool. A lot of awesome color, really cool finish, can be a great fish for a beginner, provided that you know what to give them, how to care for them. We're going to cover those things in this video, so stay tuned. So this is a betta, Betta splendens. It is the most common species of betta kept in the hobby. There are dozens of other species, but this is going to be our focus today, as we're going to see lots of different varieties in terms of their finish, in terms of their coloration. That's, I think, what makes them so popular in the hobby. They come from parts of Asia. The water there is usually flowing fairly slowly, and so we're going to try to mimic that in our aquariums as well. So we take a look at the size. I think one of the things that attracts people to bettas is obviously first their amazing coloration and finish, but also the fact that they don't get super big, so they're going to be somewhere around that 3-inch mark, and females will be about the same size. And as you're going to see throughout this video, the coloration is absolutely phenomenal, and that can happen for both the males and the females. Where the females, the coloration may be very similar, often their fins are going to be much shorter than the males that you would usually find at a pet store. And I think one of the things, especially if you're new to keeping bettas, that we have to consider is their temperament. And it can really be all over the board. I've seen bettas that are really relatively laid back, and I've seen bettas that can be a terror of the fish tank. And so part of that depends on the individual fish, but the other part of that really depends upon what you're putting in the tank, how big the tank is, and so we're going to look at those aspects as well. Now, one of the interesting things that I've found over time is the lifespan. I have found for a lot of the big box store-bought bettas, they don't tend to live very long. I suspect that's due to the relatively poor genetics of some of these lines, and so maybe you get a year or a year and a half out of them. I've also found that when you get them from a breeder, the average life expectancy tends to go up quite a bit, and so you might get 2 or 3 years out of a betta when you're getting them from a breeder who's paying attention to the genetics and making sure that their line is still healthy. When it comes to keeping them, I would highly recommend a few things. Often we see them in the store and they're in these little cups, and people take them home, think they can put them in a bowl with no heater and no filter and they're going to be fine, and often that doesn't work very well. And so one of the things that I would strongly recommend, if you are in a home where the temperature is usually in the low 70s, you're going to want a heater for your tank and bring that temperature up to around 78 degrees or so. They're going to do so much better at that higher temperature. Often what you'll see at a lower temperature, let's say around 70-ish or so, 72, they tend to kind of sulk at the bottom and not do a whole lot, and that's just telling us that our temperatures are probably a little bit too cool. So definitely get a heater for your fish tank when you get a betta. You're going to want a filter just to keep the nitrification going, so fish are going to produce ammonia, and that's going to be turned into nitrite, and both of those things are really toxic for your fish. And so you want to have the beneficial bacteria with filtration. We've done videos on that before. I'll put them in the description below. But you want to have those beneficial bacteria so that nitrification can happen, and that's going to keep your water a lot better for your betta. Now, when it comes to the water parameters are everywhere, let's face it. You know, when we look across how people are keeping bettas throughout even just the United States, for instance, our water, it's relatively hard, and so it's got a general hardness somewhere in that 10 to 13 degrees hardness, somewhere in the 180 to 200 parts per million. But they can be kept in that water. They can be kept in much softer water. When it comes to pH, I think if you're right around neutral, you're going to be pretty safe.
Shop Etsy for affordable home decor to get you ready for anything. Find the perfect pieces designed for your budget, like cozy throws under $75. Original prints under $35.
So you might be able to go a little bit less, certainly be able to go a little bit less, but for us, our pH is right around 8.2, and yet they're thriving, and they've been thriving for years in our water. But usually right around neutral, you're going to be fairly safe. Now, when it comes to feeding bettas, it's really not hard. They're not all that picky, at least in my experience. They will eat flake food and small pellets and frozen brine shrimp and frozen bloodworms. It's best if you're going to feed them frozen bloodworms and chop them up into smaller pieces. They also really like live baby brine shrimp, I found. So bettas tend not to be overly picky when it comes to their food. I think one of the things that we need to consider, and probably one of the most controversial subjects when it comes to betta keeping, is the size of the tank. Now, we have kept bettas in tanks as low as 2.5. I personally wouldn't go any lower than that long term. I know there are many people out there that feel that a 2.5-gallon tank is too small for a betta. Because bettas tend not to be a high energy fish, they're not swimming around quite as much as, let's say, your tetras or rasboras or something that's going to really be flying around the tank. I have found a 2.5-gallon minimum can do just fine. I've kept them in as large a tank as a 75-gallon in a community setting and had good luck there as well. I would say if you're new to fish keeping, the larger the tank that you get, the easier it's going to be to maintain good water parameters. And so certainly a 5.5-gallon, even a 10-gallon would be a really good idea. Even though we've kept them in a smaller tank, we know how to manage those water parameters properly to make sure our fish are healthy. The tank size is also going to have a major impact on what types of fish you keep with your betta. We get this question all the time, what can I keep with a betta? Well, in a 2.5-gallon, the short answer is probably nothing. It works out okay. We've got a betta in with a mystery snail, and that's worked out okay in that particular setup with that fish. That may not always work. You know, the larger tank you have, the more options you have. And so in a 2.5, or maybe even a 5, I might just keep the betta on its own. And there's a couple reasons for that. There are two types of aggression you may have to manage, and that is your betta chasing other fish around in a smaller setting. They've got nowhere to go, and so often they're going to get beat on a little bit. The other issue is that if you've got any type of fish that may fin nip your betta, they have nowhere to go. And so in those smaller tanks, it might just be better off just keeping your betta by itself. By the time you get to a 10-gallon tank, I think now you can begin to think about other types of fish. So maybe some pygmy cory cats in a 10-gallon, or some small rasboras, or some small non-fin nipping tetras. We've done stocking ideas for 2.5, 5.5, 10-gallon fish tanks. I'll put all those in the description below if you want more information. But the most important thing when you're looking for tank mates for your betta, you want to make sure that they're not super active, which is going to stress your betta out. You want to make sure that they're not going to be a fish that's known to fin nip, so a lot of the barbs would certainly be out. Gouramis would probably be a bad idea. Mollies might not work. Even guppies, we've done that before in larger tanks with some success, but you just have to be careful. You've got long finned fish, and now they're picking on one another. Cory cats, bristlenose plecos tend to work just fine if you've got an appropriately sized tank. Like I said, a lot of the smaller tetras, rasboras, possibly some platies, depending on the size of the tank, are all potential considerations. Now, when it comes to decorating your tank, what we like to do is we like to keep it natural most of the time, and so we'll have usually some sand or some gravel. The substrate really doesn't matter. Sand, gravel, your average aquarium substrate is going to be fine. They don't really interact with the bottom all that much. When it comes to rock work, often it's better to have smooth rocks as opposed to sharper rocks, because sometimes bettas like to wedge themselves in between rocks and get scraped up a little bit. For us, we really like live plants, and so you'll see a lot of our tanks, they are often going to be populated with live plants that helps manage water parameters, and for us, we just like that more natural look, but certainly fake plants are going to be just fine. Even when it comes to wood, just make sure that, sometimes you get a lot of the spider wood with a lot of the really sharp ends. That may not be the best for your betta and or its fins, and so if it's going to be wood, maybe sometimes the Malaysian wood, some of those smoother woods might be a better option. Filtration is super important in a betta tank. I started to mention this earlier, but you do want some type of filter in a fish tank, and that's going to help, again, with keeping the water parameters correct, allowing us to go from ammonia to nitrite, nitrite to nitrate, and then we do our water changes to manage that. You can see in our tanks we've got some sponge filters. The other thing that you can do is a low flow hang on the back. The big thing here is we don't want a lot of heavy flow in our fish tank when we have bettas, especially with long fins, because they're going to be fighting that current and tiring themselves out. And often what you see is your betta hiding either at the bottom or stuck in some kind of a decoration, just trying to get out of that heavy flow. So we really want to reduce the flow in our fish tanks when it comes to bettas, because they would appreciate that far more than having a lot of water movement. Now, when it comes to keeping bettas together, males cannot be kept together. They will usually kill each other. Even when they are kept together next to one another in separate tanks, often we will put paper or some type of card between the tanks so that they don't wear themselves out constantly flaring at one another. The other popular idea is to have multiple females together, a betta sorority. That for us has not tended to work out well long term. We tried that even in a 75-gallon tank, and long term it didn't work. The female bettas just kept fighting to the point where we just had a couple left. And it's something to consider. You know, in a smaller tank, it's definitely not going to work if you just got a few. The dominant female betta will often kill the other ones. In a larger tank, I've seen people make it work, but I would caution you against that, especially if you are new to keeping fish or new to keeping bettas. It's best just to have one. Males and females also cannot usually be kept together. Now, certain species can, but the common betta, not a good idea. It will be, even if they mate, and we're not really getting to the breeding side, often the female will be pushed aside, and then if the female doesn't mate with the male, there's a very good chance that male will eventually harass that female to the point where she will be killed. So it's best just to keep one betta in a tank and not mix them with other bettas, especially if you're new. If you're looking for more information, especially on how to breed them, I will put a link to Creative Pet Keeping's channel in the description below.
When it comes to bagging great prices on the brands they both love, one trip to Petco.
I don't know if anyone else has really given this much thought, but I find it very interesting that when you go into a pet store and they have a bunch of betta fish, that they're all differently priced. Now, obviously, there can be a lot of different reasons for that, but I felt like this needed to be investigated. So let's go investigate. Now, I had to be kind of discreet when I was filming because these stores don't really like you filming, especially the betta fish, because a lot of people will expose them for not really taking care of them properly since they're already being sold in cups. So I figured I would just do a voiceover. This way here I can also have all my thoughts together, really give my opinion about why these betta fish may be priced differently. So of course, something to note is that they do give a chart of different prices for the betta fish, and the pricing difference is quite drastic. I mean, the cheapest betta fish is $3.99. The most expensive they sell here is $19.99. So that's a pretty big price difference, especially for one fish. Now, the way the pricing works at this store is it goes from standard to deluxe to premium to exotic. The exotic is the only one that actually has a description for it, and that is the most expensive. Now, according to the sign, the reason these are $19.99 and considered exotic is because these betta fish meet their strictest standards for colors and patterns, which is understandable, but I'm just curious, does that actually apply? Do all of these betta fish that aren't exotic, are they really any different from these exotic betta fish? So I want to go ahead and look at them in order, so I started off just grabbing some of the what they call standard betta fish, which are $3.99, and I will note that a lot of them were females, but of course in no way were these fish not really nice fish. Of course they were a little smaller because they're females, and maybe not as vibrant because they're females, but I'm just not really sure if a $3.99 betta fish is going to vary that much from an exotic one. Something I was also curious about when looking at all these betta fish was, were the ones that were not exotic, were their containers going to be more dirty? Were they going to not be treated as well as the exotic betta fish because they are priced higher? Thankfully, I don't think that was really the case. I only saw a few that were extra dirty. They were at different price points. They weren't all the lowest priced betta fish. Now, something to note when looking at these betta fish is that because of their genetics, it is possible that the cheaper betta fish, the $3.99 betta fish, they may not have the best genetics. That might be part of why they're pricing them so low. A lot of the time you may see these cheaper betta fish, it is possible that because of their genetics, they may get sick more frequently. If you're looking at the lifespan and the life expectancy of these betta fish, it may be shortened just because of the genetics of these betta fish, and that might be part of why they're selling them for so cheap. So then I started looking at the next level, the deluxe betta fish, which they priced at $7.99, and I started noticing a little bit more color, some males, and some different varieties of betta fish as well, but still I wasn't seeing like a huge drastic difference between the cheaper one, the standard betta fish, and the deluxe. These squirrels are staring at me. So then of course it was time to investigate the premium betta fish, which were only $2 more than the deluxe, being $9.99, and at this point I really was not seeing a difference between the deluxe and the premium. Now of course there's going to be different varieties of betta fish, and that is partially how they're pricing them. So yes, I am actually seeing some difference, but there isn't really an overall difference other than the types of betta fish that they're offering. They're still healthy fish. They're all betta fish. They're males and females of all different colors and varieties. But I just think it's interesting to know which betta fish they are deeming as worth more. So then of course I needed to look at the exotic betta fish, and again, these are priced at $19.99, so that is double what the premium betta fish are priced at. Something I also wanted to note was that there were a lot of the cheaper betta fish in comparison to the exotic betta fish. Most of the stock was the $3.99 betta fish, and it was kind of actually hard to find the exotic betta fish. There weren't too many to choose from, but the exotic ones were a little bit harder to find. Now here is where I did see a little bit more of a difference, because now I started to see some koi betta fish, which obviously are a little harder to get, so I can see why they're priced a little higher. But then I also saw some other betta fish in this category that weren't much different than the premium or deluxe betta fish. I forgot to mention that a lot of the time also with the cheaper betta fish, there are often baby betta fish, which usually they're being sold way underage because their immune systems just aren't caught up. They're not ready for the stress of living in a cup and being sold in a cup like that. So oftentimes the babies don't survive, and partially they price them that cheap because they know that if you buy one and it doesn't survive, you're going to go back and get another one because it's only $3-4. Overall, I do think that there is a difference between the cheapest and most expensive betta fish, but not actually. The only difference is their colors and patterns, and I do know that that is what they said for exotic betta fish, that those are the betta fish that meet their standards for colors and patterns, and I can see that. But what do you guys think? Personally, I love all betta fish. I don't care what color they are, what pattern they are. I just love betta fish. I love how they behave. They're really
the fifth thing that I've learned about bettas is that they are actually a really good community fish, and while we call them fighting fish and they get the reputation of being aggressive, this is really only towards other bettas, so you can't keep two bettas together. Even with female sororities, I've had issues before. I'd always recommend keeping a betta solo, but you can add tank mates to your little aquarium. So say you've got a 5 or a 10 gallon aquarium, sometimes it does help to actually add a few tank mates to that aquarium to keep your betta active and not bored. It keeps your betta interested. I'd recommend adding a few nano fish to that tank just to liven up the tank a little bit, and it will improve your betta's happiness and activity within the tank. Some really good species would be just like some micro rasboras, some celestial peladanios, even some neon tetras would be alright. Things like that. Do your own research on it though, and have a look around at some little micro fish that you can keep with your bettas. It could be a great way to just spice up the tank and make it a little bit more interesting, and also help improve your betta's activity and mood in the aquarium. Tip number 6 is going to be regarding the heat of bettas. So people keep these fish in relatively cool environments because, well, they can handle it.
Hard to believe something this small can kill a person.
ये है हमारी फाइटर फिश। ये गत्ते पे भी इससे तो अटैक
golden faro y en el
G'day Legends, Blake here with another video, and if you're looking to get your first fish or maybe to branch out further into the hobby, it's likely that you've been into a fish store and been recommended a betta. Well, first of all, I think that's a great recommendation. However, there are a few things to know before doing it to get on the track to best success. So really quickly I'm going to run through that. Let's go straight into the video. So first things first, bettas, great recommendation. This is because they don't work exactly like other fish in that they have a